Hello and welcome to Blue Otter Diamond. Tonight, we kick off the season with a best of 3 between Landslide and Conduit. I'm your local casting cowboy, Korak, joined, of course, by Rue13 on color and Series on production. Let's dive right in, my friends.
Let's get into things. Draft already underway. These guys do not want to wait around. They want to get straight into the action today. And starting out some top lane bans as well. Interesting to note. You typically see a lot more focus towards the bot side, but these guys straight on the top lane.
Well, and I think it's also important to point out, too, that we are sitting in a new patch. It released, I believe, yesterday, if I remember correctly. So I suspect we're going to see a couple of different things here and there. I've heard a couple people complaining, a couple people being excited. I haven't had a chance to dive into it myself, so I wouldn't be too surprised if we start to see a lot of weird stuff coming through. I mean, it can't be too much from what I was used to, right? Because I stopped casting when Otacon was a thing and just recently came back. So I had a lot of catching up to do, so it can't be that bad.
It's a lot. I will be for a mid-season thing, for like a not end of the year. It's kind of crazy. The prior thing been changing a lot, though. Obviously, pros not playing on it yet, so it's difficult to really find the meta for themselves. I think today, especially, going to be a lot more defined by individual people's comfort. I think maybe a week or two's time, then we get some pro influence. But I think that second ban there from Landslide tells you absolutely everything. When have you seen a brand even exist in a draft this year?
Not really at all. I'm still a massive fan of it in the bot lane, but that's because I am a support player and I do like Brand in the bot lane. I think that it does have viability in the right scenario, but there's a lot of people that disagree with me on that notion. Obviously, we don't see it really in draft. We don't really see it in pro play. It's showed up a bit more. I want to say the last month or so in, say, solo duo, but even then, I think it's pretty situational. Brand has a lot of issues, so I don't know. Maybe we will get to see a returning of Brand for a while. Like, I want to say even further back, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, we had Brand jungle for a while as well.
I enjoyed playing that myself last year, but not going to be allowed this time around, of course, as we are straight into first picks here. Final bands coming through, and Bessa taken instantly. And I'd have to say that I think that's more of a takeaway than it is kind of a pick for Conduit. There's a lot of Landslide that really enjoys that, Septi in particular. Really enjoys playing Ambessa jungle, but he's going to be forced into the Jarvan here, and then Aurora's going to be taken second. Interesting to take Jarvan so early on a draft.
Yeah, we did indeed pick up the Aurora. I do think it's important to note that Aurora can go top lane. It's a bit more unusual, but it is still a tool that is available for that one. So this isn't necessarily mid, although I do think it is significantly stronger from a universal perspective mid. And Bessa, not really too surprising whatsoever. I think LCK has like a 60% win rate on Ambessa and something insane like a 70 or 80% ban rate. So people are still pretty worried about this champion, even if we're up in a patch. We're going to go from that immediately into a Corki and then waiting for a Nami Hummy. So yeah, there we go. Corki, Nami in the bot lane as well. So another great duo for that one. I think probably the second best combination in the game.
Yeah, and really good mitigation as well of this Jarvan, right? When you early rotate the Jarvan, you can kind of pick around it a little bit more. If you're picking into it with the mobile champions, then you're asking for trouble. Taking the Corki, has himself the Valkyrie, should be able to escape the worst of the Cataclysm. Hopefully for his sake, able to stick around. Surprised that Landslide took that Jarvan as early as to say. It's a little bit out there. But Landslide also just going to be taking Seraphine on 3 here. Ashe banned in the first rotation. So clearly not even looking towards Ashe Seraphine. This is just a phenomenal champ. And not like as in like really good. As in like there's a guy called Phenomenal. And he plays for Landslide.
Oh. Well, you got me there. That definitely would have confused me.
Yeah.
I think we can see her in mid. I think that there is a non-zero chance Landslide is looking at potentially a Seraphine mid and maybe an Aurora in the top
Phenomenal's
lane.
a sport.
Could still mix it up.
I'm going to say, before we go any further, Crippy Penguin, his most played is Aurora mid, and then Phenomenal is like a massive Seraphine main support. So I think that is just as simple as it is most of the time.
Right, fair enough. I do think that they have other roles that they can go to, but if that's what they're comfortable with, and that's where we see them most often, it doesn't really surprise me too much on that one. Next couple of bans, though, however, rolling through, it looks like we're going to focus on the Urgot in the top lane, the MF in the bot lane, and then, of course, the Ahri, and now waiting for our 4th ban here. Rue, any predictions?
Ooh, quarterfinal. I mean, you can see another bot lane coming through. Something annoying with Seraphine, like you can go like Jin if you really feel like that's going to be annoying. You're quite squishy so far. Anything else that has a slow as an ADC definitely can be in there. But beyond that, you can look to take away solo lane as well if you want to go towards that top lane ban. I think Jin's a solid ban here, but just going to go Silas instead. Interesting, actually. Silas. They appear to be thinking, is this like a Silas top counter they're worried about? Are they pre-planning Malphite here?
I mean, that would be a good precursor for it, getting rid of the Silas so your Malphite has more impact. And of course, Silas typically takes the ultimates from other people and uses them often better than the original owner. So I could see that one. And I've seen Silas top more and more frequently. It looks like it's going to be the Jinx and the Seraphine in the bot lane. Not the most traditional, but they're still very, very powerful in their own rights. And I think they can play well into each other. I feel like we would have liked someone who could play back just a bit more, maybe a Varus or like Yanara. I think the roots would have worked really well with that one, but we're also probably not just looking at the lane phase. And I think this does give us a little bit more versatility in that action. Looking for our last little pick here, about 5 seconds on the clock, and looks like you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be the Malphite in the top lane, just followed up by the ban on the Silas.
Yeah, it's an odd one to be taking, especially into a top matchup. I mean, Rumble is very on the table. The new rune that released, like, the amount of burn that you get, the amount of damage you get in excess of what you normally would. I feel like taking Malphite here, very dangerous. Even if you double flex the Ambessa Malphite, Rumble's still very fine into Ambessa. I think it's maybe why they banned the Gwen early on as well, but any AP top right now for Landslide is actually going to run over this draft as it's an Aphiri on B5, and that is also a little bit out there. That's a mostly demo champion, so I'd expect that to go mid. But I'm a little bit confused at this Conduit draft. I'm even more confused that we're not just picking an AP top laner right now for Landslide.
Yeah, I agree with that notion, but I have seen more and more of Nefiri in kind of everywhere. I've seen Nefiri top, I've seen Nefiri mid, I've seen Nefiri jungle. About the only place I haven't really seen her is jungle, is the bot lane. So that's not really too surprising. Aatrox, another classic, so that's probably our top lane right there. Looks like we finally do have our setup here when we're looking at everything, and I like what Conduit's got going on, even though it might be a little bit unorthodox. They have a bit of, hey, we're going to pick on this person and take them out. They can also play back into the tidal wave. They've got a decent amount of armor shred with Corki, and we've got Nefiri to sort of play weird when and where we need it. The biggest thing that I worry about, honestly, is if Aatrox can get ahead whatsoever and can sort of go for those backlines, because if he can get his hands on Corki, that's going to be a very, very dead Yordle very quickly. And if both of these teams sort of devolve into a 5v5, it can turn into who can get to the backline first.
Yeah, and I think the small issue with that as the Aatrox is that you know when you picked it, you're picking into a Malphite, and that's a great neutralizer of Aatrox, right? Aatrox typically we see very good into tanks, but not Malphite, right? He's like the one outlier to that rule because the amount of armor he stacks up is just way too much. The early Brown Vest is going to absolutely neutralize him, and then from there, it's going to be so difficult to snowball the game as the Aatrox in this situation. I feel like most Landslide here is actually kind of playing down towards the bot side. Jinx has a little bit more synergy than with Seraphine than it initially seems, right? Jinx W for the slow. If you can land the traps as well, that gives the root, turning them into a stun with Seraphine a little bit more than otherwise anticipated. But is that really enough to run over a Corki Nami lane? I'm not convinced.
Yeah, there's a lot of versatility there because just as we have roots and we have stuns on the other side, we can't forget about Nami Bubble and Tidal Wave, plus Corki. Armor Shred works on anybody just as well. They're happy to play into tanks. They're happy to play in a lot of different things. I think Corki is also in a really interesting spot. Not necessarily just a super crazy good spot. Obviously, he's played a whole bunch, but I really like the location he sits at. I think that he's such a fine tool to use in a lot of different spots. I think that he could be good into Aatrox. Aatrox. The biggest thing I'd watch out for him is really just having to deal with Aurora in these team fights. I do know if Aatrox can get in range. Corki, it can be a little bit of a coin flip on how they can get out of that. But even if Aatrox chases down the Corki, you still have the rest of the team for Conduit to worry about. I'm kind of curious, what are you thinking when we're looking at these neutral objectives? The first couple of Drakes, let's say the first 2 Drakes, who are you predicting has the best team comp in order to grab these early on?
I think Conduit have a lot of abilities play through their bot lane here, and I think Landslide are really going to struggle. I think Jarvan's going to be there a lot, but in the 3v3, it's going to be Corki and Army and better favored most of the time, unless you start the fight maybe half HP. But at the end of the day, if you're starting a fight with half HP when you're a Nami lane, then you've done something wrong, right? I feel like Conduit should have bot prio, should be able to push through that lane and play for those Drakes. If mid lane gets in there, makes it a 4v4, then maybe the tides can turn a little bit in favor or a little bit more than the Neferi there. But come late game, you add a Malphite into the mix as well, and how does this Jinx survive? That's my big question, because nothing else for Landslide really is going to carry the team fight as much as that Jinx, and you got a Malphite in the other team.
I think if she doesn't get pinned by the Malphites, we've got angles to play with. Obviously, the thing you're pointing out there is if Malphite goes in and ults the Jinx, there's not a whole bunch she's going to do. She's going to melt absolutely like butter in an oven. And there's really not going to be a whole bunch of their team to do it. You can try to get an empowered W or empowered shield from Seraphine, but I don't think that's going to be enough to stop that. I think, though, if Landslide plays this sort of low and slow and kind of has these sort of feigning advances and then backs off real quickly, we have Encore, which is such a powerful tool to really like start this fight, and I can see Conduit falling for that, because if you look at their team, they're very, very forward motion, especially if they get a tidal wave off. They're going to want to follow that tidal wave into a fight if they're not already involved in the fight, and if Malphite's already dealt with and/or has already blown his ultimate, they might have a harder time getting into those situations as they might think. And then even then, if Malphite goes in and we get a decent Encore off, that could be something that stops the rest of the team long enough maybe to take down Malphite overall, but easier said than done. He obviously is literally a rock.
Yeah, a very large rock as well in this game, right? Shouldn't be too far behind from lane phase up against an Aatrox. Quite a nullifying matchup, as we said before. And the value he's going to have throughout the game is just so impressive. I would expect a lot of this one here to be done via top lane for Conduit when the late game really does come around. But before then, they also have the tools to fight if they want to, right? They don't have to wait for those kind of 25, 30-minute team fights. They can take skirmishes because they skirmish incredibly well. That's one of the things Corki does better than most bot laners in the early to mid game. Pre or post Triforce Spike, he can skirmish because of the armor shred. And I mean, you've given Ambessa a target who has half the amount of armor as normal, they're gone.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of setup there too, and then adding onto the skirmish, to really double down onto that, which is why the combination is so powerful. And I think the second strongest in the game, in my opinion, is the fact that we have Nami. Nami's got a lot of tools, both for dealing with a bit of CC, a little bit of area. If someone's targeting your Corki, if you target your bubble on top of the Corki, or at least where they were, then oftentimes you're gonna be able to provide them that spacing plus the healing to make the skirmishing even better as we move on. And there's just a lot of tools. There's a lot of versatility. But the one of the things I keep on harp on is that with both Aurora and Seraphine, their damage is always upsettingly good. And when it comes to Seraphine, even if Seraphine is really, really bad, like if Corki and Nami win this pretty hard, then Seraphine is kind of still universally good. And that's like their utility will almost always be there. And as long as they don't just constantly miss everything, that is something they can play with. But just give us a couple of minutes, everyone. We're going to roll into a quick be right back as spectator delay is ticking down here in the background. Give us a couple of minutes, grab yourself some drinks, some refreshments, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, everybody, thanks for hanging on as we roll into game number 1 between Conduit and Landslide. Already starting off 1 minute on the clock, and we're already starting off with a decent amount of trading.
Yeah, and it is roughly where I expected everyone to be going. Demo putting that Neferi to good use in the mid lane, also taking the new rune, which I have to remind myself of the name of, because it is new, but it's the burn rune. The important part there, this is going to be discussing about damage that the heal deals this game purely from burn. Deathfire Torch is the name of the rune stone, and it will shred.
Yeah, I think I've said it before. I'm not super up to date, at least on these patch. I've been sort of a bad caster. I've been pretty busy in the background, but I've heard a lot of the crazy changes. One of my favorites, unfortunately, is not back, which is sort of a meme build that I saw a long time ago. When I got excited and was being told about all of these like old builds coming back, and I was like, yeah, but are they going to give Caitlyn's trap AP damage so you could build AP Caitlyn again? I've seen that once or twice, and it doesn't work, but it's funny.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Though Malignant probably provides too much synergy with that these days, to where it's just not allowed anymore, because the more Caitlyn ults are maybe a thing of the past. It would be quite fun. We got to see Malignant's Corki last year, so no reason why we can't have a couple more things where the ultimate just does a bit too much, a bit too often. Yeah, early game, doing roughly what the early game is expected to do, right? No one's going crazy, especially first game of the season. No one wants to be the reason that something goes wrong for their team. Though we are also seeing a new starter item out from Arashi, going with the Doran's Helm instead of Doran's Shield that GitCat is using in the top lane, and then so far it seems to be working out pretty well for him.
I think anything that helps out with that beef in the top lane, especially into Aatrox, but you got to remember that's deceptive, especially once they hit the level 6, and we're already getting really close. Looking for our first little gank, though, is it looks like we're going to get Jarvan over the wall, flag and drag, in order to escape from that Mbessa. So I guess I did forget to mention, we do have Mbessa in the jungle as we get really close to taking down that Corki. Camera pauses dramatically. We finally catch up as the barrier and the heal come in. We do miss the root, but it doesn't matter. We get the kill in the first little bitty reset. Now Nami is looking for the flash, looking for one AA, and she does manage to get it. A long-winded 1-for-1 trade. However, that is very much so in the favor of Landslide, especially if this Nami goes down right here.
Yeah, should be able to just about get out. It was close on a nice edge the whole way through, but able to just about escape. But overall, definitely a play that Landslide happy with the results. They got the first blood on their Jinx. Enemy kill goes onto the support. About as good as things could have gone. Does provide Shay with a decent base timer in terms of getting a cull and a tier, so I'm sure he's going to be absolutely fine with things. But on the other side of things, we have a pickaxe. This is first thing we get on Jinx, which I'm assuming that may even go Hex Optics, and at that point is exactly what you're looking for on that first base. Just a little bit more juice than they otherwise would have been, and a very good place for Maj.
Well, now we're sitting at about 4 minutes. Drake coming up here in about 30 seconds, or at least our first one. Can't imagine it's going to be taken until about the 1 minute mark. Downtime for Mbessa looks like it's going to be spent in the top lane, which would be the worst thing because we've got Aatrox pushing pretty heavily. I still feel like we're going to need that ultimate in order to take them down. Aatrox can be pretty slippery, sort of deceptively so. And of course, he's got plenty of beef to sort of get into that fight. And I think that you're going to need that. And Mbessa immediately making me a liar, heading downside instead. I think that maybe Jarvan snuck over there and grabbed their buff instead. Oh, no, yeah. It looks like they grabbed the buff, so we're at least down that on the other end, but our downtime is going to be spent for both sides in the bot lane, right next to the Drake that just popped up.
Yeah, and they may even look to go towards the Scuttle as well, which is spawning on the top side. If they don't want to contest Drake at level 5, first person to get that Scuttle grab will hit level 6, as they have both done that second clear. XP oh so close. You could you try and stand in someone's lane for a little bit if you want to try and get there. Instead, you can do the base timer coming out from Septis. He looks to have a small item advantage to fight over that crab with. Both junglers spam pinging it, but it's this small little tempo diff that the investors found themselves in. Just about a beat behind Septi right now, and it should be the Jarvan getting over to that crab first. Level 6 achieved, and then maybe look to go to the Drake afterwards.
Jarvan looking for a gank on Nefiri. Nefiri is going to be pretty hard to go for, especially if we're going to be sitting on top of Ward, which we very clearly are. They do not know that. And Bessa coming around, so this could turn into a quick hot dog gank as we collapse on the other side. The pink does come down. That's going to be at least somewhat as Bessa goes in. We're looking for a couple of little shots here onto Jarvan. So far, Aurora having a hard time getting range, but nothing really, really big. This crab should be on blue side, but if Aatrox comes down, this could thicken the plot when it comes to this tiny little bit engagement.
That's going to 3v3.
It's going to get pretty spicy as the camera refuses to rotate as we're in auto mode, I think.
Yeah, we are, but it should be Demo picking it up. I think that is a flag and drag away there from Septi. Even with the Aatrox coming down, doesn't fancy a team fight against Malphite, and I don't blame him. The only possible mitigation on that one would have been Arashi's mana. I'm not sure how much he had, but it is still pretty low after having a little look down there. Still going to be level 6 reached off of the buff, but a small advantage for Zhao PP, which has maybe not turned into something good. Hello.
Zhao PP taking a flag and drag directly to the face, and the nice 1-2 combo come in for a lot of damage. You know, and I think at the end of the day, we should have known that Aatrox was not there in the top lane and looking for something to happen. We already tried a little bit of a rumble inside of the pit, and it didn't work out. But either way, that is going to be a dead jungler after getting that advantage, so that's going to be pretty unfortunate. The gold, of course, going to Jarvan, which means we've now got a score of 1-2 at about 7 minutes.
Yeah, and a massive, massive death to be taken there by Zhao PP. A little bit unnecessary, if we're being honest, right? It just doesn't need to be there at that timer. Gives Septi now a massive advantage when they want to look potentially down towards bot side here. Still got to take 2 more camps on their own bot side before they look for any more ganks, but with how bot's going right now, with it being so neutral, Jinx getting that early first blood, the lane's in a fine place, or even if they want to base, they can come back and get that prio and then look towards that first rate, which is getting later and later, but still has value all the way through. Scrappy Penguin sticking around the lane. He's getting absolutely dominated by Demo. That's kind of the only thing I hadn't noticed so far. The CS diff in mid, and Nefiri is absolutely running this matchup.
And I think that's been the appeal of Nefiri mid, is that it's a lot more of a bully than people make it out to be, or people originally think. Because it's not like Aurora is a pushover in the mid lane. Aurora is pretty powerful, but I've seen Nefiri even trade heavily into Orianna. I think that matchup does favor Orianna a little bit, but even then, Nefiri can be such a pain to deal with. And one of the biggest things, though, too, is with people like Aurora and people like Orianna, they're not as mana efficient as they could be. And if I remember correctly, and I'll have to have someone correct me on the numbers, I believe Nefiri is relatively mana efficient compared to her opponents, and I think that's what helps us with the harassment.
I would not be shocked at all, because Demo is absolutely destroying this mid lane right now, and I do wonder how much of it's due to this new rune as well, the Death by Torch. I'm assuming providing quite a lot of value every single time you hit an ability. If it's single target, you apply 4 seconds of burn. It's just unfair, as Zhao PP is looking for a 1v1 in the jungle.
Yeah, PP looking for that little bit of revenge. The Cataclysm comes down, buying himself just a little bit of time as we do flag and drag over to the other side of the wall. That is going to be one ultimate down. Nefiri here for a little bit of support as we go over on the other end. We do have the scuttle up, but we're going to start the Drake, and that's not a bad call. We did notice how low the jungler is down, but there's still a non-zero chance. We try to look for some sort of minor pick, but I don't think Landslide really, really wants to go for that.
Yeah, and I think Septi's just happy for the new Ambessa change. Previous Ambessa, the cast time in her ult was a little bit shorter, and the fact that it was just a tiny bit longer than it used to be gave him time to flash out of the public execution. Without that, he may have just been falling down in his own jungle as things are able to escape, but maybe not even to say the same as Madge, forced to flash. Nice bubble timer there by the Nami.
Yeah, they would have been super close if we did not get that flash. That might have been a dead Jinx, so there's a reason that ability exists, or the reason why that summoner exists. So it's not the worst thing to use it, but it does make the Jinx vulnerable, being a less mobile champion than some of the other ADCs there. Looks like Jarvan's going to be the first to go for one of these other neutral objectives. I think he's picking up the Void Grubbies here in the background. Nowhere near as strong as they used to, but it is better than nothing, and if you're sitting in this downtime, there's really no reason not to grab it.
Yeah, I wonder when Conduit grabbed the other one. I completely missed that, but it is 2-1 overall. There's only 2 grubs left in the pick. It clearly wasn't then that Zhao PP got them. So unless it was like a laner deciding that 1 grub was worth the push on their wave for. I don't know what's happened there, but somehow only able to find the last 2 was the Jarvan. Looking to get back to these clear speeds, Septi's somewhat ahead, but that is basically like the fight that he took earlier. Let's provide him a small tempo advantage. Beyond that, Zhao Pipi doing everything he kind of needs to stay involved in this one. A little bit dangerous on top side. Okay, wow. You're actually massive respect. He did not even have World Ender. That's an ultless 8 drops that he just unstoppable forced away from.
Well, he was starting the multiple flips, and that can be scary on its own. So I don't really blame him, and maybe he just wants to try to play this low and slow. It wouldn't be the worst thing for it. Now we're looking for a little bit 3v3 on the side. Flag at least is down, but no drag, as we do take a bit of damage. Cataclysm trying to lock down at least one, as we do have a couple of shots off, but it looks like it's only going to grab the fish instead. This armor shred is much better on Corki as they pick up one kill. There's going to be the popular execution going for the backline shot into an encore, but that's going to be a double kill for the Corki, leaving Seraphine by themselves. A tower shot getting hit on Zhao Pipi, but what a nice little bitty interaction, bringing our score up 3-2 and giving that
I don't think it's ended.
to Corki does so much.
I'm actually surprised they don't go for the regank here either. I think phenomenal, no summons, no ultimate. You can definitely regank that if you want another 300 gold, but I think just going to back away from this one, Conduit, but an amazing play all the same. The counter gank absolutely perfect. Except he just realized how much of a rough situation he was in there. Couldn't escape, couldn't flag and drag his way out to safety. Ends up just trying to do some damage on the way out, but you're up against an army. Even when you try and isolate her, her health pool's almost like half as big as it actually looks because of just the amount of healing she's able to provide herself and sometimes her teammates as well. Is Che using his flash in that exchange? But I'm sure he'll take that for a double kill that already gives him his Triforce Spike at 12 minutes. The rest of the game now looking absolutely amazing for Conduit. Their team fight we said before looks amazing. That skirmish proving to be pretty damn good. And now they're also up a little bit of gold as well to really enhance that.
Yeah, for sure. The biggest difference in CS is still the mid lane, as there's about a 30 CS lead, give or take a couple of minions here and there. So that's continued. At the very least, Aurora hasn't been taken out, and it's just been down a bit of gold. But that is something we can look forward to for Conduit. And I do think that that's also something to point out, too, when we're talking about the skirmishing, is the Cataclysm can act as a double-edged sword, right? Because Nami and Corki sort of want to skirmish. They don't want this, like, all-in sort of bursty thing. And that Cataclysm could separate even your own team, right? It isolates. That's the whole idea, is it isolates, right? And sometimes the isolation provides you that extra little bit of space that you need, and Corki can go over that with a flash. Corki can go over that with, of course, one of their own abilities. So they have two different ways to get over that Cataclysm. As we step forward, Seraphine not respecting the other side as the tidal wave comes down. Corki doing so much damage. Nice bubble, and that's going to be a double kill for the Corki, sitting at 4-1 at almost 14 minutes. Things are looking grim in the bot lane.
And it is the Corki army destroying the Jinx Seraphine, as we predicted, right? You said how annoying of a bot lane this can be to face, proving itself absolutely true this time around. Conduit once more able to get a double kill, and they not going to stop here either. Septi, very dangerous.
Zhao Pipi finding Jarvan once again in the other spot as the Cataclysm comes down. We flash to safety, but that's a lot of resources out that Jarvan no longer has. And one of the biggest things I want to point out here is Landslide is completely playing to Conduit's tempo. Every time Mbessa shows up, aside from a couple of mistakes here and there, every time Mbessa shows up, it really turns into something else. This could turn around on the other end, but I like the coordination. We did get Corki, we did get Nami there, which is the majority of the gold for the other side. And most importantly, we've set things up in order to try to get our hands on this Drake. And I think Jarvan's going to really struggle to get in range. He would have to go around over to the other side if he's looking for a steal, and it might be suicide if he goes the standard way to Drake.
I think going there at all may be suicide. No flash, no Cataclysm. I would not fancy it personally, especially the roam up from bot lane. Che and his Nami are willing to do. Demo basically always has prior on mid as well, so it feels like there's no way to really access that fight. As you're saying, at that point it would just be Septi all alone and facing a pretty much guaranteed death. Should be able to maybe make a play on top side here. Has a small little time while Jung's on opposite sides to look for something, but I mean, you get the choice of clearing your camps or trying to lane gank a Nautilus and not Nautilus, sorry, a Malphite. Would you like to gank a Malphite? I wouldn't. feel like it doesn't do much.
I don't think it's I don't think it's doable. Not only is he super tanky, it's very, very clear Malphite is perfectly happy to just sit there and hang out and not give over any like real critical advantage. He's got TP, he's got his armor, he's got his ultimate, he's got his flash. I just don't see that happening. And Jarvan is, I guess he wasn't down Cataclysm there. It's a little pixelated for me, so I can't see entirely. I think it's still ticking down, but I don't think Jarvan
just
had Cataclysm
now
there for that one. Okay, yeah. So
yeah,
so
I
he
did a
didn't
look
have Cataclysm at the time. Oh, speaking
no,
of
it was just coming off cooldown when he was standing in the lane brushes. That is a nice flash away from GitCat, away from an unstoppable force. But yeah, it was just an awkward decision there for Septi. His own temper right now has been so kind of put down by what Conduit have been doing. And it feels like playing Jarvan from ahead is amazing, right? So it's a champion that feels really nice playing from ahead, but playing from behind, you realize how squishy you can sometimes be, and it just doesn't feel great, as Maj also does not feel great after that trade.
Yeah, and something I want to highlight too is Malphite is a great one. If you're able to hit that ultimate off right, it's such an endorphin inducing ability, especially when it hits, but it's completely detrimental to the other side. It is very much so an unstoppable force, but it is not an unavoidable force. First rate going down now. It looks like we're gonna get a little bit too close here as the tidal wave comes in. We do still have Seraphine trying to avoid a couple of shots, but it's just not gonna be enough as the Cataclysm comes on the other side. Flag and drag as we do isolate Zhao Pipi. There's the super magnetic rocket, but it's not going to do too much, as most of the skirmishing team has just decided to walk away and let the jungle go down. That's not the worst call for Conduit. Conduit recognized something a lot of teams don't, that fight was lost, that it was just better to give it up at that time. And right now they might be able to get a little revenge, as it looks like Aatrox is going to run directly into a 1v3, going to get taken down. So that turns into a long-winded 1-for-1 trade, as Malphite finally sees some sort of opportunity in top lane to look for a trade. But you got to remember, this is an Aurora. She's happy to top lane now. Flag and drag over the wall, as it looks like Demo going for a little bit of a dive. Not too much going to happen though, but our score now sitting 7-3. 2 Drakes on the side of Conduit. Conduit looking in top shape in game number 1.
Yeah, I think in some regards, the Aurora might be happiest in this side lane against the Malphite. If they can keep that as a matchup, Landslide potentially have an avenue back into this game. Feels like Aatrox may be able to match the tempo that this Neferi is providing. Only at 1 item still, so definitely playable if you're able to find it. But the longer this Aatrox is just getting completely nullified by what Arashi is doing on the Malphite, it feels like the longer the GitCat is just not be able to play the game to the full effectiveness of an Aatrox. And we're seeing him really struggle so far. 2 assists now after that play, but it just does not feel enough for this Aatrox to really look to snowball the game, because he is their main target of getting onto this Corki, who, by the way, is 6-1-1. He already has his 2-item spike, though it's slightly diminished because he hasn't got his tier upgraded. Che doesn't care. He's got 2 items, and he's got some anti-heal, even though his Nami has no flash.
Nami getting a little bit too close to that ward, once again sort of falling for one of the classic blunders. I think we were working our way up to get a ward on the other side of the wall, but honestly, I don't think it was worth it. Positioning could have been a bit better, but that's pretty nitpicky. Going back to your notion here on the Corki on 6-1, I think that very much so is a double-edged sword, because of course Corki needs to be there in these fights, and if we're able to isolate someone with Cataclysm and Corki's not able to get in range or something to that effect, that means that gold is relatively useless, because we have to be able to use it, of course, in order for it to be useful. But if it is in the fight, I think for the most part, Landslide either needs to focus all their efforts taking down the Corki or just completely avoiding them.
Yeah, I think that good luck taking down this Corki when he has Imperial Mandate behind him as well, courtesy of this Nami, who's now looking for some vision on the bot side here. Moving his 5, our Conduit, towards this Drake, spawning in just a second. Here it comes. Ocean Soul point, at least, just around the corner for them. They've already claimed the space. Their waves are in a very good place as well. The top wave maybe have some questions about. It is now crashing into the turret, but you've already got the Drake basically guaranteed. You can maybe even look to make a play on mid right now, because this is 4 players of Landslide very far pushed up, and that wave is not enough to get the turret.
unstoppable force, definitely proving once again that it can be unavoidable or very avoidable force as Malphite goes in, trying to make something happen. We might be able to fight something over here with Zhao PP going in, at least looking for one as Roar goes to the other side, but immediately into the other team. We're able to phase rush to the other side. Nice tidal wave, at least on 4 as the Cataclysm comes down. Absolute spaghetti inside the mid lane as player after player goes down. Landslide finally looking for at least some sort of opportunity, but the skirmishing, the longer the fight goes on, the better. It's going to favor Conduit as look at that damage. Nice bubble as that's a double kill on Corki. 3 for 1 so far. That healing coming in clutch. The skirmishing playing very much so into Conduit's hand as we chop down the T1 in mid.
And this is a team fight that they have without Malphite ult. And they're still able to win out convincingly. Up now 5,000 gold, 3 Drakes to 0. Conduit, it's only 5k, but it's in such a better position than just 5k would typically say. And a 5k gold lead is still a 5k gold lead at the end of the day. This is an amazing place that Conduit have found themselves in. They put themselves in. And now it's all on Landslide to try and pull this one back, right? They lose another team fight. They're fighting kind of in between Ice and Spikes. We'll look at you. So Crispy Penguin is a little bit away from a Shadow Flame. Marge having to burn double summoners in that fight. Able to stay alive, but is still waiting on his 3rd item. I'm not sure if he's going GA or if he's building IE, but no matter what, it's still going to take quite a while to get there. They felt forced into trying to make some sort of cross map, but it's so close to the Drake that Conduit just able to go straight up from taking it. The Drake does not do anywhere near as much damage as something like a Baron would. And they just overstay, unfortunately. And even with Arashi missing that ultimate to start the fight off, it did not matter at all. Landslide just not strong enough to really take these 5v5s right now.
Yeah, and I think we keep harping on the fact that this is with Corki Nami just by themselves. It is a very skirmishing team. And Bessa is also pretty happy to skirmish. That's one of the biggest reasons why we saw her top lane for the longest time when we were in sort of this skirmishing meta top. Not that that's really gone away, but that was one of the big reasons why Bessa was sitting up there. And so the fact that we've got that, the fact that we've got Nefiri, you could probably argue that Malphite is way more bursty, go in, look for that kill. So it doesn't necessarily fit the team comp, but it doesn't really matter because it looks like the rest of it is. Looking for a first little cake. We should have a 3v4 as the TP comes in. Jarvan looking for an angle, but we're going to focus down on the Aatrox. Aatrox going to get taken down immediately by Corki. Tidal wave on 2, grabbing that knockup as Nami takes 2 shots for their team. Nefiri doing the exact same thing as Seraphine here for a little bit of reinforcements, but I think this might be a moot point. We do manage to buy ourselves a little time, but maybe we could find a silver lining and chop down the mid lane with the Jinx. Either way, the T1 in top is going to go down.
And I am very impressed that Conduit even pulled the trigger on that play. I was getting a little bit anxious for them. I'll be honest, I was not feeling that one. As soon as you see the TP coming in that early, you know that the Aurora is going to be there for the most of it. A 3 versus 5 under enemy tier 1, not always the safest play, but able to make it work this time around as Madge. He uses ultimate to check the Baron pit. They know he's not there. They have to have based. If they're not on Baron, they must have based. We can't be staying there that long.
I think that we waited a little bit too long to throw the Super Mega Death Rocket into the Baron pits. Maybe a miscommunication, maybe just a little bit overzealous, but I feel like we should have backed off immediately after grabbing that. There's no way we were going to get that second tower unless they just absolutely ignored it. And I understand trying to go for the macro play, but I don't think it's going to be super, super worth it here. And man, look how quickly we're taking these towers.
Corky things. Just corky things. It's also that damage. Ignoring the armor shred is insane. I guess that does happen when you have 10 kills and 100% KP. Fair play to Shay. I mean, the J rather. Like, he's absolutely running this one, and he's doing an amazing job of providing Conduit with a huge advantage. They're able to play very well around so far, looking for his 4th item, while the Jinx is barely even getting up to 3. That is the difference, basically, between these two sides. There's a little bit of extra gold elsewhere, but he's absolutely dominant so far, and if they end up winning this one, it'll be mostly down to what Corki as well as the Nami be able to do through bot lane. Their gold lead is just so difficult to come back from for Landslide.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's a good point, and I think that Conduit is doing one of the classic things that you need to do, is just having a gold advantage isn't enough to win the game. We've been able to turn that gold advantage into towers, into plenty of Drakes. Now we're sitting on soul points. We're clearing out wards. The fights have been really, really good, and this is a very, very dominant position for Conduit and a really precarious situation. Now,
is
as we're
using
able
the
to grab our
flash during the
first one,
fight.
already turning this into a 4-for-1. Not sure if that was me that disconnected or my coach.
It was you.
By the way, the Drake is starting, and it looks like Jarvan, it does have position to try to go for the intercept, but that's not worse. That's not the worst thing if he goes for it, but I don't think we have too much vision. I guess we have the pink out and ready to go, but we have pulled it outside of the pit, so this is going to be easier said than done, but I do respect the attempt to try. The rest of the team is backed off, and this can be a smite fight, but it looks like we're going to get caught instead as Nefiri and Nami and Corki go over this side of the wall looking for this Jarvan, try to catch him out.
I mean, they can grab him very close on the public execution. If they can take him out, that is a Baron. The fact they chase him even closer as well, Jay does not want to give this one up.
Yeah, Corki in, already doing an insane amount of damage, but Jarvan proving to be pretty slippery. So that does mean we're going to be able to get it back, get a reset, put some pink wards down.
They can still look for it.
Now that we have the Soul Point out and ready to go, we are in plenty of positions. Ooh, getting real close. Getting in plenty of positions to go for this Baron. I don't think that Landslide can stop this, but we do have to remember that you get a lot of debuffs while fighting Baron. Baron is the original Autocon, and you can still turn team fights around. It's not as bad as Autocon was, but it's still up there, especially considering we have Jarvan's Flag and Drag to go in and not only go for the steal, but add extra debuffs to that Baron fight.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot more like it as well. The Malphite isn't with the team. I know why they have the Malphite in the side lane right now. Septi, you've walked way too far, my guy.
Yeah, he stepped a little bit too close to the sun and is indeed going to get burned, but that Flag and Drag once again proving to be a very, very slippery tool as the Doggos go in, picking up one kill. There's going to be Encore at least on two, looking for that opportunity as the Zap goes in, but it's just not going to be enough flash there for safety for Maj as this fight has turned into a skirmish and we're not even doing any damage to Malphite. Look at that massive, massive shield, and we have to remember in the background we have Ocean Drake out and ready to go, so the skirmishing team has even more skirmish in their tank.
Yeah, and they're just not going to be taking damage for the foreseeable future. Plenty of time now to just take this Baron. Septi's not even going to be close to respawning by the time that it is up. And it's just way too far forward. Face checking as the Jarvan. When you're ahead in the game, you can do that, right? If you're at this stage, you have 3 items, one of them's GA, then sure, go nuts. But no flash at this point, as Septi, it's just not possible to look for that face check. And he gets very well punished by Conduit. They take the Baron on top of absolutely everything else. And I think this game is most exemplified by looking at jungle XP differential right now. Zhao PP, level 15. Septi struggling down at level 12, and his blue buff's just reset on him too.
I mean, what's level if not just a number? You know, how much does it really matter? No, but definitely good points. Even if we don't have a whole bunch of flashy kills on Zhao PP, that you know, is going to be a big difference. And our KP isn't the highest, but honestly, that's just because Corki has been a very dominant force in the bot lane, and you could argue very much so, and I think very reasonably, that Zhao PP helped sort of tip those scales. Zhao PP did go for a couple of those early ganks, and I think that they're paying off now into the late game. And I don't think that everybody has to have an amazing KDA. What matters at the end of the day is, of course, that your enemy nexus blows up and yours does not.
Yeah, Arashi, a dangerous position to be in, but he is a Malphite, so maybe not. As I'm trying to work out where the mismatch is right now. This is a 1v3 in bot lane, and yet a Conduit of all the times to not be pressing the advantage. It feels like right now he definitely could have done. They're going to take the turret, they're going to play things safe, going to play things slow. Still another half this Baron to go. The 4-1 split doing an amazing job. I think they could have even pulled the trigger and looked to potentially even go for an end. Ripcon was very far up with no flash there.
Absolutely. I do still think that Landslide's got an opportunity, and I think this is what Conduit is watching out for and why they're playing sort of so low and slow is if one person gets caught out, there is a very heavy opportunity that person's going to die, and then it could snowball, especially if Jake starts getting some really good resets. You know, that could spell the doom of the team. You know, if we're able to take down Corki, especially if we're able to take down Corki starting off early on, that would be the most vulnerable person to go for, but much, much easier said than done. But it looks like we're going to easily grab these T3s and the inhibs. Can be a double-edged sword if we don't go for it in here soon. We do have, looks like 5 cannons, which should be able to provide a lot of damage. We're going to go for the back instead. Don't blame them. Go grab that T2 and get out of there. No, but this does mean that an additional 180 gold is going to be rolling into Landslide a little bit delayed.
It will, but I don't think Conduit care. I think their attention is much more focused on looking to see if triple inhib is possible with the final 30 seconds of the Baron. If it isn't, then oh well. Guess what spawns in a minute 30, right? That's their attention right now. The macro play they could press for the end if they really think that they have it in their back pocket, but if you are not convinced by the 13,000 gold lead, then you know what? It doesn't matter. Just go back, take another minute, and go claim Elder, then end the game.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot of reason really to risk it. You, me, everyone who has played or seen League of Legends has seen teams sort of throw very heavily leads, right? And one of the big things that is continuing ticking down as the game goes on is of course that gray screen timer. So which means that every mistake is going to matter just a little bit more the further and further we go into the game, and the levels stack up and the timer stacks up. So that will be a bit more critical. Granted, it is going to be quite the gold diff if we're trying to look for some sort of lead when it comes to that, but there's still a non-zero chance something like that is going to happen. But we got 30 seconds for the Elder Drake. Once we get the Elder Drake, I'm not sure that there is much Landslide can really do other than get really, really lucky.
I'm not even sure that'll be enough. I think this is going to take a throw onto the Nexus turrets, maybe even twice, for this one to be pulled back by Landslide, but they do have the perfect champion to pull off those types of shenanigans, right? We talked about it before. The Jinx is exactly what you'd need to just get one reset and shape the whole dynamic then around her, instead of how the dynamic has been shaped so far by Conduit establishing a massive lead for themselves. Gaining presence over mid-wave, going to allow them free access to the Elder Pit. They can choose kind of where the door is for this fight. It looks like they're going to choose Banana Brush.
Yeah, Banana Bush out and ready to go. It looks like Kit Kat's going to run into that immediately. Not sure that's the best call, but we do have at least some of the beef. The fight has begun as Malphite goes in on core, at least on one. It does manage to catch Corki. This could be a good opportunity, but can we lock him down? No, Corki's over on the other side. 1v1ing the Aurora as Aurora gets taken down. This gold diff is just too powerful. Public execution in, leaving only one left to run away. This support desperately trying to get out, but it doesn't matter, as that is going to be a full ace, and game number one is going to fall to Conduit.
Yeah, and the waving bot as well, just salt in the wounds, I guess, as it is going to be a very easy clear towards the next turrets. The Nexus instantly going to fall down. Conduit take that with a very clean game, all things considered, right? Just the 5 deaths for your first game of the season, that has got to be a massive confidence builder as they now head into game 2, up 1-0. I mean, if we got more of the same to expect from Conduit, then, hey, they're very early contenders for putting on an absolute showcase, not just today, but maybe for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, and Conduit a lot of times has these teams that make it to the grand finals, and sometimes go outright win them. So it wouldn't surprise me too much. I'm not sure if these teams are sitting on coaches or captains or anything like that in the background to sort of play with. But either way, great performance. But it is only one game. You can't let it go to your head. There's always just the chance that that first game is just sort of the warm up round for the other team. I've seen it happen time and time again where the tables flip. But either way, still a very, very dominant performance for Conduit. Massive congrats on their in, but we still have at least one more game to go, Rue.
We absolutely do, and well, we're going to take a short break before we get over there, because these guys, they do like to take their time between games, so we're going to take a short little one here, and we'll be back when game number 2 draft is ready for you all. Until then, we'll be back in just a few.
Hello and welcome back to game number 2, draft number 2. Quick item of housekeeping. Keep in mind, this is Fearless, so what you saw previously will not be seen going forward. And we also have a little bit of a side swap. It looks like Landslide sliding over into the blue slot and Conduit sitting on red.
Yeah, I think that'll favour them a lot more as well, based off of how they wanted to draft in game 1. It feels like they were much happier when they were proactively picking than when they were forced into responses. As I think was best exemplified by that R5 pick, right? Taking a subpar matchup for Aatrox, where the Malphite was just able to completely neutralize and then do a lot when team fights already started. I think this time around, if they have the priority, they get to choose what they want to go first. They may have a slightly little outlook on game 2, and hopefully for their sake, ends up a little bit better than what we saw in game 1.
Yeah, for sure. And I've got to imagine sort of highlighting that pick top is I've seen Shin a lot more too. I feel like that could have been a decent Shin angle. I don't think he's one that's particularly difficult to pick up. He would have had great utility, right? And one of the reasons you pick Seraphine kind of in general, and one of the reasons Seraphine is good sort of throughout the game, like I said before, is that utility. And Shin would have added more utility to their team. They would have had the flag and drag. They would have the Cataclysm. They would have Jinx looking for the reset. I feel like maybe we could have gone a bit of better of ADC. But, who knows? We're now in the past rolling into this second one. I don't suspect our bans are going to be too different. But when we're talking about roles and we're thinking about these first couple of picks for Landslide, who do you want? I'm not going to say who do you think. What role do you think Landslide is going to pick first here?
I wouldn't be shocked if they headed up towards top lane. Obviously, it depends on these bans. The Gwen taken away early again. It feels like GitCat's just not allowed to play his most played champion. Makes sense at the end of the day. If you're able to hit that perma ban effectively, then very solid choice there from Conduit. But beyond that, I don't see much that GitCat can really just take. So at that point, it's like, well, where do we want to go, right? We can draft a very solid compound, a whole lot of junglers for Septi. The Ambassador is taken away by Fearless, but he's got some Nocturne in there. You can even flex a Silas if you want to. I think looking towards jungle, probably where I go for Landslide, but if you have it flexible to mid jungle, then hey, even better.
Speaking of Silas, Silas was one in our previous ban list right before the Malphite popped out, which was what Rue called earlier. So we have changed that completely. We're going into the brand ban. Mel and Victor, or not Victor, Varus. I got the V part right. I was almost there. I was part of the way there. Words are hard. But so Varus, Mel, and Bran in the bot lane. I know people see Bran show up in the mid. I think that they're more worried about Bran bot lane, in my opinion. I feel like this is kind of a PTSD ban for me. And that's just kind of the vibe I get off of it. Because if you run into a good enough Bran into that support role, it can really dominate your lane. Next couple of bans,
and it's a background pick as well. So it's a background pick as well, the brand. And in the enhanced state the brand is, then absolutely. As this is a top laner that I didn't consider being taken by Landslide. This is a massive takeaway pick. Arashi is basically an Ornn main. He has other champions that he has played a bit of, but nothing even comes close to how many games he has on Ornn. Taken away from Conduit's top lane here by Landslide. And we were talking before, what do we want to see? I want something for top jungle. They want to, you want to kind of mitigate that top lane counter pick as much as possible. Ornn is an amazing champion to do precisely that.
Yeah, and I think it's a great pickup. Ornn's not particularly hard to play, and even if you sort of get crushed into the top lane, you still have something to look forward to once you hit that level 13, 14, that bit of scaling as the game rolls on. Always a great powerful tool, always a great set of utility, and utility is one of those things that almost never really goes away. You can mitigate it with items, but just Call of the Forge God alone does a lot for their team. And, Ornn's not a bad 1v1, and this is what I was talking about. We were talking about how Shin shows up pretty frequently, and the power of its utility, and the response to their top lane, to the Ornn, is going to be Shin. So Shin into Ornn. And we also have the Aphelios. Aphelios is one of those ones where I feel like you have to have a good understanding of chess and planning out your guns, about 3 or 4 guns in advance in order for it to work out correctly. I think that some players can struggle with that, but when you see an Aphelios shine, I think you really see that. The nice thing, though, about Aphelios is he's got a lot of interesting pairings. Like, I don't think Thresh is super crazy meta right now, but I do think that Aphelios is good with Thresh. And speaking of meta, we've got a Senna.
Yeah, that's shaking me up much more than any Aphelios Thresh talks ever could. I am not even sure where this is going. Phenomenal has played a bunch of enchanters, and it might feel a little bit mean to stick Senna in that pool, but when you play a support that's effectively what she is, it's just yet another enchanter. Though this time focused a lot more on attack, as not even going to split that flex either. Just going to keep it as we have a Senna. Enjoy. Before this goes any further, I would like to point out that Maj does have Ornn as a champion that he plays in the bot lane, potentially. So this could be some Senna Ornn shenanigans, and then try and counterpick Shen later on from Landslide.
Okay, I could see that. There's a non-zero chance I could see that popping off because, right, you've got the pillar that Ornn can throw up and the knockup that he goes into. If Senna's able to set things up with a stun beforehand, that's going to be a double knockup, so they're going to have a really good juggle right there. That's also going to be a great tool. Even just these two in general, even if they don't go to a bottom, that is a great tool for them to play with for Nocturne to pop down Paranoia and really just sort of like thicken the plot on that one. So I do see kind of like the utility. I do see the gears in my own head starting to spin, looking on for these different combinations. And it looks like our last pick for Conduit is going to be Lulu. Lulu's not someone I particularly enjoy with Aphelios. If the Aphelios is good enough, then it's not that big of an issue, but I feel like Lulu is a significantly better tool for a lot of other people. At the end of the day, we are still in this enchanter meta. Lulu is still very, very powerful, and honestly one of my favorite supports overall, but I feel like maybe we could have saved her for another game unless there's another angle we're looking at here.
I mean, from Conduit's point of view, they don't care about another game, right? they're here to try and 2-0 and get out of here. So from that perspective, they don't care about a game 3, right? If the game gets to game 3, then we messed up game 2. If we just draft well, we play well, we repeat the success we had in game 1, there's no reason why we can't close things out here, is what they're thinking right now. As they'll turn their focus back down to the mid lane, which is the only thing that neither team has even looked towards so far. Conduit, I guess you could say that the Shen is somewhat flexible. They might not want to split that, but I'd imagine they just pick jungle here, and then keep their counter pick for the only thing that neither side can see, as we are getting those extra bans coming through. It's now the 5th ban on mid, if I'm not crazy. Mel, Hui, Akali, Orianna, and Syndra all taken out the pause. Then finally, Gangplank going to be taken away for Arashi, which suggests to me that they're not convinced where their Shen's going themselves. The Landslide.
Yeah, I don't think GP is particularly strong right now. I haven't seen any stellar performance for him off of everything that I've seen. I haven't seen him show up in really meta at all, but sometimes the comfort is significantly better than what fits meta, and sometimes playing off meta really can work if you can find those subversion of expectations, and I think GP can be weird enough for those things to happen. It looks like it's going to be Pantheon, so we're looking more at the theory of Shen going maybe somewhere else. I have seen Shen go jungle more than likely, though. This is still probably Shen in the top lane and Pantheon in the jungle, but I have seen Pantheon make a couple stints in top recently.
Yeah, it should be that way around, but as you say, it is technically double flexible, but I think as things stand for Conduit, they're happy with the way things are. Landslide holding their own flex for as long as possible here. Where is this Ornn going? Where is the Senna going? What shenanigans do we potentially have going on? What are we pairing up alongside the Senna in the bot side? Nocturne are amazing through mid. Great mid jungle duo, but the rest of the team is going to really depend on what this final pick is, and they're going to take their time, they're going to work things out, and they're going to give Conduit as little as possible to think through their own response. It will be the Ornn going down to the bot lane with the Jax, I'd assume, taken into a Shen.
Okay, so I can see how this works. And I think that there is a lot of stick and kind of juggle as well as pick potential, right? We've got a lot of stuns here. We've got Nocturne to facilitate stuff. We've got Senna to facilitate stuff. We've got Ornn to call the Forge God. And for the most part, if someone like Aphelios, for example, steps a little bit too far out of line, we're going to take them down. Even if Pantheon steps a little bit too close to the sun, he's going to get taken down. I think Vlad is a great response into this with seeing all of the stun and all the craziness on the knockup. Just being able to completely avoid it will be super, super great. His mid lane might, or his early game might be a little bit harder into Ahri, but that does give us a decent amount of less scaling, and Vladimir is almost never a particularly bad pick, and I think this is going to be a good one into this one. The bot lane will be the weirdest, though, because I've got to imagine that if we're looking at the Ornn in the bot lane, that we've got a lot of opportunities for Lulu and Aphelios to harass that, right? Because if I'm playing Lulu and I'm that support, I'm going to be EQing AAing Ornn every single time he gets close. And if Aphelios is close enough to Lulu when she does that, and Senna steps up for poke, then if they just get one AA on Senna, Senna's going to absolutely regret that. And this could potentially be a really spicy lane.
I think all my focus is going to be down there as well. I think this is a very fascinating bot lane to look at. In theory, right, we have two ranged up against one, so the early game should be difficult for Landslide. That's just the way that bot typically goes. But I mean, Aphelios Lulu not the most threatening, as we you hinted at earlier. It's not the highest pressure that you can provide, but early game it somehow can be, right? Because you have green gun to start things off. The extra range provides that little bit of extra dominance that helps the Aphelios get through the early game. Paired alongside Lulu, I mean, the Senna's just basically there to sustain, right? You're going to hit the wave as much as possible to get as many Qs around, and if you end up running out of mana, then you're just going to have to take a rough base. I think this is the kind of game where you're happy to go 20, 30 CS down. As long as the Aphelios doesn't get miles ahead, you'll be absolutely fine. And then beyond that, it's just you play the game out, and your team fight is kind of nuts. Even though you don't have a proper ADC, that's kind of the role that Senna will eventually try and fill. Everyone else in your team is just designed to skirmish, and your team fight start is so clear, right? You turn the lights off, Ornn goes in, and Conduit, what do you do in response? I don't feel like there's much.
Yeah, for sure. But we won't know until the bell finally tolls for at least one of these teams. Is Conduit going to come away with a 2-0 lead, or is Landslide going to be looking for a reverse sweep? We won't know until the timer ticks down. Give us a couple of minutes while that happens, and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to game number 2 between Conduit and Landslide. Landslide sitting on blue, Conduit on the red side. Our score 0-1 favoring Conduit, and we've got a bit of a weird one for you with Ornn in the bottom.
Yeah, but it's not the way we thought it was. This is phenomenal taking the Ornn. This is the support player taking the Ornn. Madge taking the Senna down to support as the ADC player. I'm looking for some clarification on this myself. I'm not sure ramifications on this one in terms of rulebook, if that even does come into things. But while I'm trying to do that, early game, nothing all too out of the ordinary elsewhere, at least, right? With a double grasp in top lane, no one's taking Ignite. Ghost on Flash, very common these days. New runes once more for Demo. He is looking to abuse this this new look Deathfire Torch as much as possible while it is as strong as it is. And everyone else, when you have Ornn in the bot lane like this, Unseal Spellbook is surprisingly normal.
Yeah, not really too unusual whatsoever. I did actually expect the Ornn ADC. I thought my caster was on the same boat as me. I don't feel like Senna is in a good spot even right now to do the ADC rule, at least in my opinion. I'd rather see Ornn there, especially when it comes to the scaling and when it comes to the gold and everything else. I think Ornn's just going to benefit from it a lot more. And Senna can still do plenty of damage, and we're seeing a little bit of a 1-2 punch kind of combo going off. So there is still a good opportunity for it to happen, but so is the other thing too. You know, I was mentioning to my other casters that Lulu should be in a great position to just have an insane amount of harassment. We're seeing just that. Lulu's gotten off like 4 or 5 AAs, but we can't overstay our welcome like we're doing right now. That would have been such an amazing chance for them to go in as Git Cat takes a AA from the tower in top.
Yeah, not an ideal play there for Git Cat. I was wondering, with like the almost guaranteed priority that Conduit are going to get, if there was going to be some pre-level 4 shenanigans from either jungler. I feel like if ever you were to level 3 as a Nocturne, this could have been a prime suspect, right? Because you know that your bot lane is not going to have push, but instead, Septi is playing it very, very passive. I know there's a lot of Nocturnes who don't even think of ganking before level 6, but it's you still have CC on a button. You have a lot of setup as well with this lane in particular, right? The root, the knock-up, the insane amount of damage that can come through from all 3 of you, and then your fear on top of everything else. This could have been a level 3 play for Septi if they wanted it. Instead, going to take things passively, going to at least get themselves a Scuttle Crab. But I am a little bit surprised at how passive the Nocturne has played this early on at the very least.
Yeah, and I think to sort of double down onto your point there as well is the fact that we've got Aphelios and Lulu means they're going to push pretty heavily into this. So you know that they're going to be pushed up sort of before the game starts off. So that could be something you go for. Maybe they just don't want to waste their time. They just want to hit that all-purpose sort of level 6 and get that paranoia popping off. But it is a pretty good opportunity, I think, and I don't think it would have wasted too much time and set us behind. Instead, we're going to hover top, which I just don't think is going to happen. I don't think you're going to get Shin pre-level 6, and I think even once you hit level 6, I think it's going to be pretty hard to lock down Shin unless he's blown just about everything.
Yeah, I think top lane it's just difficult to make a play on right now. I mean, GitCat has all the push he could possibly want, but even with all this, right, it's just pushing the turret under the wave. You can't really do anything else. The taunt, very dangerous to make a play on, especially by yourself. So give me GitCat respecting that one, backing off somewhat. The rest of the game, though, still quite involved as Marge is looking for an early robot. The other thing you can do, I guess, when you have a tank in the bot lane as you're uninterested in looking for prio and looking for trades, is you can go very aggressive on your roams. And Marge doing exactly that, looking towards top side, nothing to find up there. And Phenomenal isn't even going to lose all too much, right? Just going to clear out the wave in his own time, and it's going to be absolutely fine.
I feel like, though, why go Senna if that's the case? If you wanted to get a rotating lane and you wanted to get Ornn sort of going in for that, can get a first little fight. It looks like Zhao Pipi running into Nocturne. Nocturne should be favored to win this fight if Lulu does not get there in time, but we can't forget that we do have Vladimir out and ready to go. We do manage to walk away relatively unscathed, but to sort of double back to my point, why the Senna roam? I feel like there's so many other just enchanters alone that have a significantly better roam. You could even play someone like Poppy, who has a phenomenal roam. You've got Bard, you've got even Janna's roam is very, very powerful. Nami's roam is not the worst. Nautilus, Rel, there's so many others that have a significantly better roam to get off. And on top of that, once Senna hits that level 6, she can affect the other lanes sort of from hanging out down bottom.
Yeah, I think that I guess the element of surprise is like the idea, right? Because you're not expecting the Senna to be out there, and maybe that is enough to turn the fight in your favor. And if you are playing a champ that's more associated with it, then you're expecting it, right? As Nice Charm is going to come in from Group Penguin to proc his Electrocute at the very least. Just quite calm during this early game. I managed to do a decent job in these trades, to be fair. The fact that the Ornn hasn't really fallen all too much behind beyond what we expected, everything's going according to plan so far for Landslide, right? The side lanes, the solo lanes rather, doing exactly what they want to do. GitCat has lost out somewhat in the most recent set of trades, but he can just take a base. It might lose a wave or two, but if it's 2, then something bad's really gone down. As it will be the Drake, at least, with the early pyro going the way of Conduit, but a nice cross map as well from Septi. Going to be taking a buff at the very least, maybe even looking for this Shen, what we talked earlier about how difficult that is.
He does have Flash out and ready to go. I think we're looking for the sort of perfect frame to go in, or at least for GitCat to maybe grab a stun, looking for that opportunity.
Forward.
Going to activate as we do manage to pop a Flash. We do get it, and as we lock down the shit, 1 or 2 more AA's First Blood going to that ultimate. It looks like we're going to turn it with a Grand Starfall as we're looking for our first little execute. We do manage to get it. Zhao Pipi is in an angle to fight this around, but the problem is Nocturne has that health steal. This is either one's game, and we have spears out and ready to go. That's one execute away. It looks like we're going to go for a couple of the deals instead. Shen's going back in with the ultimate and goes for the 1-2 punch. The execute taking them down and even dealing a bit of damage to the rotating Senna in the top lane. Things are falling to pieces just a little bit for Landslide. It was going so well right up until it wasn't.
Yeah, and I am so surprised at that as well. I think Septi, I was scared to just face check a bush with a Pantheon in it. I understand why. Getting stunned up and potentially killed off the back is not great, but if you just W as you go towards the bush, I don't think there's anything that Zhao Pipi can do. Also, by the way, Septi still had Flash and didn't go aggressive on that play. Doesn't push the wave in, so doesn't get that advantage for his top lane either. Just trying to save summoners, ends up losing his life over something he could have just won the fight. He had a win fight now button and he chose not to use it. And instead, Zhao Pipi is now so far advanced of where he should be at this phase of the game. His base there was 500 gold away from a Sundered Sky. Yeah, am I crazy? Sundered Sky. Like, 8 minutes. That's insane. That's crazy.
Well, and I think it's also important to note too, and something I try to tell people is, you know, that flash exists for a reason, and it's only bad to use your flash if during the next fight you super needed it and it got you killed or it cost you an objective. After that, you know, like if you blow a flash and then nothing happens for a little bit afterwards, then it's not the worst thing. There's a reason for that tool, and I think that you could have been aggressive, and if you were worried about that, that could have scared the other one. Oh, we're starting another fight though, as it looks like Zhao Pipi gonna run into a little bit of trouble here. This is turning into a 3v2 in the favor of Landslide, as they go in and lock down the Fed Pantheon, fighting over the Grubbies.
And that's just on Zhao PP. Look at his base. He has his item in base. That's not a fight you need to take, my friend. Unfortunately, without Flash, just ends up being a complete death sentence. Great collapse coming through from Landslide. Great macro play from them, but it's a big punish, and you can't get a punish play without something going wrong on the other side first, and Xiaopi just did not need to be there at that time. Contest the grubs all you want, but you have to be smart about it, and that unfortunately just was not the smart play there.
Yeah, but now our score sitting at 2-2 gold, pretty tied up. One Drake in the favor of Conduit, sitting at 10 minutes on the clock. And I think one of the biggest things, if we don't get too far behind on Landslides in, I think things are going to start, at least during when we hit that middle phase, when we hit that team fight phase, is the best opportunity for this sort of strange comp to sort of make things happen, especially once we start hitting level 13 and 14 on this Ornn.
Yeah, just taking his time to get there. It's going to take a little bit longer, right? Being in lane with shared XP, it's going to mean that, you know, Phenomenal, it is going to take him some time, but I'm sure he'll be fine once things are ready to get going. Until then, though, still has to just tank things out in the bot side. I'm surprised on that topic that Magic is spending as much time as he is in the bot lane, right? The thing that Senna doesn't need is XP. Everything else, yes. Gold, absolutely. A little bit of experience, but not much. It's just kind of gold and stacks, right? And you can get your stacks by chasing your jungler around their jungle as well. You can even look to invade as a 2v1. I'm surprised that Marge has spent as much time as he has in this lane, but leaving Phenomenal down a little bit of XP over the rest of the game won't matter all too much when push comes to shove a little bit later on. But for now, it does change things up just a little bit, as Groove Penguin has hit level 10. So he's put potentially some pressure on the Pantheon, but he's able to walk out to safety.
Looks like Maj did hear you, and it has rotated top, but once again, it's sort of turned into a bit of a nothing burger. Shen's going to be so hard to go for, and this is kind of one of the other things, though, too, especially when it comes to Senna, is who do you gank, right? Shen's going to be hard to pin down for a million different reasons. It's not impossible, but it is hard to go for. I think that Nocturne is a good answer to that, but even Nocturne's going to struggle. On the other side, though, too, is like, who are you going to go for? Vladimir? Vladimir is historically extremely difficult to gank, and then even if you do gank him, he's happy to fight you under tower. I just don't see a lot of opportunities for Maj to make something happen. I guess the big thing is that Phenomenal has been doing really well in the bot lane. Look at his CS. It's 92 to 107. He is a melee champion. He's a tank. The fact that he's been able to keep up with that CS, I think, is bodes really well for them. So I like what we've got going on there at the very least. I feel like Maj has spent so much time. But at the other side, though, too, is despite the fact that we have a 1v2 in the bot lane, Lulu hasn't counter-ganked too much, and they haven't found a massive advantage there in the bot. If I was there and I know that Maj is going to rotate, I'm going to be on Lulu, and I'm going to be harassing that Malphite. I'm going to be, or not Malphite, that's Ornn, and I'm going to be trying to get them as low CS as possible. Maj, looking for something to happen, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Groove Penguin has a disgusting amount of chunk already. Demo not tankiest at this phase of the game, right? Not rushing towards it with like a Riftmaker first, going for a Proto Belt. So he's going to take a real quite a while to properly get going on this Vladimir. And until he even reached that first item spike, it should be the time where Groove Penguin, looking to take those aggressive trades, does half his damage instantly, but doesn't decide to follow up on it. And because of all this bot prio, this is like the thing that you're basically giving up. By going for the Ornn and the Senna, you are giving up these early Drakes and saying, we think we can fight them later on with our superior team fight. Not a cross map available either on the top side this time for Septi, so just kind of has to accept this one. May look for the dive, but that is still a Shen, and I'm still scared to go for a dive, but you could go. Okay.
We did start it. I think that is probably more a bit of a cover. Not a great little set of coordination there. I think that if they had planned that a little bit better, or they both had decided to go in or both decided to go out, I think they were trying to work with a sort of off step. But at the very least, that does keep Git Cat alive, and I think that's going to be important. People don't realize this, but I do think Shin can do a decent amount of work with gold, especially when you're looking at the fact that like Shin's got a lot of powerful utility to play with. And they also do a deceptive amount of damage. I've seen Shin absolutely nuke tanks from sort of like a weird angle. He fits this skirmishing meta. He's got this great utility. He's got a lot to play with. Ooh, nice root, but that's the problem right there is we don't have a lot of follow-up. It's all on Maj's shoulders to make this trade happen because Ornn cannot get in range once those little stuns and everything kick off.
I'm actually more scared for the Lulu here. Is this crazy? I'm more scared for the Aphelios Lulu lane. This is a Call of the Forge God angle that is waiting to happen. Sure, you have wild growth, but Maj doesn't need to be the one doing damage with phenomenal still has his things, but there we go, flashing forwards is Clay.
There's going to be Call of the Forge God as we do get knock up into at least one shot there. This is a bad position for Aphelios, but it looks like the Shen going to come in. We're able to get a kill on the long way around. There's going to be Pantheon. We've got 3 here for this game, trying to lock down the Ahri. Ahri going to try to mitigate some of this by going for the Lulu. Just 1 or 2 more AAs with the Lulu flashing away. Flash forward to try to pick up the kill. Reinforcements here in the background as Nocturne looking for a bit of the damage. Demo trying to do a 1v1 into their 1v1, but it looks like Paranoia coming in there right at the last minute to turn things around. Flash forward, trying to lock it down, but Ahri proven to be. She is this fox, and we do manage to get a kill, but taken down there right at the end. Things were looking great for Conduit, or for Landslide, but Conduit really kind of fumbling the ball, and I think that's more of a utility issue than anything else.
Yeah, and that's why I was scared for the Aphelios Lulu lane. They were forced into making that play by stepping up so long, and you see the early punish coming through. Changed, unable to disengage, forced into the fight. A great roam found there by the Crippy Penguin. Even if it did cost him his life, eventually able to get 3 kills, 2 assists, and get Septi even more fed on this Nocturne as well. A great turnaround, and that was effectively a 4v5, right? The fact that you Shen's ulting in, you've got everyone else from Conduit turning up. The Jax was just split pushing in the side lane. He claimed the top tier 1 while all that was happening. If we're being honest about the kills, I think it technically was an ace, but that's not even where most of the gold came from, right? Most of the gold from that play comes from GitCat pushing 2 waves and also claiming a turret.
Yeah, but I do think that we are seeing some of the angles, some of this utility that I was talking about, right? We're sitting at the 16-minute. I think this is where most people can safely say we're about in that mid-game. We're about in that team fight phase. And I think that this is the best opportunity for Landslide to make more and more things happen if they coordinate. And that's going to be one of the biggest things because the timing on their coordination is going to be just as important. And if they make a whole bunch of bad plays, but they are able to sort of like fall in like a steel trap and take out these teams when the fights kick off and support each other when it kicks off, then like that is a great opportunity for them to turn this around. Even if the fights are a bit messy, if they can just make that happen at the same time, if they can just knock down those timings, I think that Conduit could potentially be in trouble.
Yeah, I think I might even take that a little bit further. They're a small ways away from getting some actual damage out of Maj, right? Still waiting on Black Cleaver, such an expensive first item as a support player, and also not very accelerated themselves, right? Compared to the rest of that fight, Ahri gets incredibly accelerated with the triple kill. The Nocturne on a similar vein now, maybe 1,000 gold away from his Stride Breaker. The issue is that, okay, finally there is the first item for Senna, but it takes 17 minutes to get there. Maj is just, he's just not that accelerated, right? He hasn't been given many kills. There haven't been many opportunities for much of anything through bot. So, as such, your damage profile is a little bit sketchy when those team fights do come around. But, I mean, hey, the longer this game goes, the better it's going to be for Landslide, and it's already going all right if they're up 1,000 gold.
Yeah, there is at least a bit of a gold advantage for them, and I think that they are still poised to pull a win out as the Paranoid activate. We're going to fight underneath the tower. There's going to be that growth by Lulu trying to keep themselves alive. That shield, absolutely phenomenal, buying us so much time. We don't have a lot of follow-up on Conduit. This is that steel trap that I was talking about. If you just press all your buttons together, it does not matter how good your other team is if you can come together quickly enough for those kills, and that's exactly what they are doing. They're using everything to knock down 1 or 2 people and turning that into an advantage.
I am pleasantly surprised to find out that that play worked. I thought that committing under the enemy tier 1 was maybe a touch too far with only 1,000 gold advantage, but the team fight is just that disgusting. You press the buttons, you lay your CC effectively, you TP out of danger in top lane apparently as well. It goes all right for you. Landslide, a massive fight. They claim the turret, and they also, most importantly for them, stop this Drake stacking on another Ocean Soul. Not the most important of souls, not the most impactful, but very important to stop that stacking before it gets too dangerous, as this is also dangerous.
Two more reinforcements coming on the other side, and there's going to be the Grand Starfall activating on the other end, trying to lock down this Nocturne. Can we get this kills? And the Paranoia does activate right there at the end. Pantheon looking for at least one or two more people. There's one Execute looking for the second one as well. Reinforcements demo is here. It looks like Nocturne able to buy himself some plenty of spacing. Is flashing, happening over to the left and right. Demo able to pick up one kill, looking for the other ones, tracking down. The support as TP comes here in the background. There's the flash forward for Demo, trying to get another kill. If we can just buy a little time for this pull, and it's just not going to happen. We've got a couple extra seconds, but that's going to be a 3-for-3 trade. Vladimir getting a little gas in the tank, and that is something to watch out for as we roll forward.
A huge play for Demo, at the very least. He's just gone back to base and bought a hat. This guy is now much stronger than he was just a minute ago, but it comes at a very heavy cost. I feel like the abandonment of Che may lead to some potential trauma for this Aphelios, completely left alone. The Pantheon, turning up a little bit late with the Grand Starfall that went so deep onto Septi. They end up getting those 2 kills back for the Vladimir, but you left your ADC to die, and unfortunately just gets absolutely run over. The fact you're able to turn the fight around somewhat even after that is good, but it could have been a whole lot better, I think, if you're able to save your poor Aphelios' life. But at any rate, it's still a fine play for Conduit. It just maybe leaves a sour taste in the ADC's mind. Mouth.
Well, and I'm going to go back to I'm going to go back to that coordination, right? So far, I think it's been much better on Landslide, but it is starting to get better as time goes on for Conduit, and I think Conduit has a better team, I feel like, for coming together if they need to, especially with the fact that we could have Shen sort of anywhere he wants, and especially once he hits that level 20. He's got plenty of maneuverability to get around the map, but, I guess you could argue the same thing, too. We've got the Sen ultimate, we've got that, we've got Paranoia activating right now.
He has a QSS, guys.
Of the Shen. Shen does have at least one flash, but this is going to be hard to get away from. We've got Ari, we've got the Charm, we've got so much damage. I think we're just going to take it down. There's Pantheon coming in as he looks for at least one kill, doing that nice 1v1. Lulu here as well, looking for that ultimate. There's going to be the Wild Growth, trying to buy ourselves more time as we get a little bit too close. Shen trying to help out, but only going to take it down for the trouble. Lulu grabbing the stun, the root, and popping it onto Aphelios, stopping what could have been a nice trade, unfortunately for them. But that's going to be a 1-for-2. Things still looking really great for Landslide as they continue to roll over Conduit.
It's another play that they make with potential for numbers disadvantage as well. That's GitCat without flash on the bot side, just split pushing, gets himself strong once more, but a very dangerous play to make when you're looking to that aggressive on the top side against a guy who had QSS before that fight started and just chose not to use it throughout the whole thing. He got chunked down to maybe a 10th of his original health pool, threw a lot of stuns at that point, didn't use the QSS, and unfortunately still ends up falling down. I guess a good play for Landslide. They make it a 2-for-1. They still have plenty of time to get down here for the Drake spawning in a minute or so. Even enough time to set up some early vision here, courtesy of Maj. And I'm surprised that A, there's a QSS, and B, it wasn't used. Maj, what are we doing? Okay, we're fine.
Not wanting to live. Although it was just a Vladimir. That was probably the luckiest person we could have ran into, even with just the Lulu slow. That would have provided us enough time for that one to go in. A couple of wards going down, a couple of wards getting destroyed as we're getting a little bit of a 1v1 in top lane. I don't suspect this is going to turn into a kill. We're looking for an angle to try to take this Drake, and so far the Banana Bush is firmly in the control of Landslide, and oftentimes he who controls Banana Bush does control the objective. It does provide a lot of breathing room for a lot of different things, but we've got time to clear this out. Still 30 seconds on the clock, but we just need to not get caught, especially that Aphelios is going to be so important for this fight. And that's one of the big things, too, is I think that Aphelios has kind of struggled to get to these fights in time and to get the fights, without getting hit by a lot of this CC, not getting hit by a lot of this knockup. They've very much so struggled. I think they have the damage to do an insane amount of damage, but the problem is providing the spacing. The problem is not getting caught by these CCs and continuing to play with our team. And right now, just things seem to be favoring Landslide. This is a good opportunity for them to turn around. There's TP on the other side. TP for the response. Is Call of Fortune going to get activated? Going to grab at least one star.
That's huge.
As that Paranoia going to get activated. They at least hitting some of the back. Massive stuns there in the back. We do separate there, as it looks like one goes in on the other side, looking for that damage, looking for the kills. Turned into absolute spaghetti, but it looks like there's a lot more blue than there is red, but that health bar is not great. We do miss the spear on Zhao PP. Triple kill on the Jax as he looks for more and more, looking for that ace, leaving only the Shin here by themselves. Conduit finally has an opponent on their hands. Conduit finally getting pushed against the wall as our score rolls up 18-10 at the 24-minute mark.
And a massive fight from GitCat, just absolutely running over the backline. This was pre his third item spike, by the way. He's waiting to go back to base to get his son to the sky, but he didn't even need it for that fight. And that maybe tells you how insanely fed this Jax already is. There, finally, he's just absolutely destroyed that fight in favor of his team. Jay just got caught. No flash on the Aphelios. It's a premium target, and through the barrier, not enough to survive, even through wild growth. Just gets absolutely ran over by the Jax. And a great play. Typical of top laners to pretend like ADCs don't exist and murder them in 0.3 seconds, but he did his job to perfection, and it gives Landslide now an amazing opportunity for the rest of this game, as that is a no QSS, just about. He's gone.
I don't think we escape from this whatsoever.
Oh.
We have a grand starfall. Once again, Pantheon trying to basically make something happen. He does at least need one more spear to take it out. He does get the Nocturne, but at what cost? You know, why are we going in for these fights? We're not going to save Shin in time, and we've seen this over and over and over. Landslide is just continuing to do this amazing, nice two-man knockup, this amazing job where as soon as someone gets hurt or as soon as something happens, they just send everything, except for like maybe one guy down there, and it just works in their favor over and over and over, because it doesn't matter if you're meta. It doesn't matter if you're getting out damaged. If you have greater numbers, oftentimes you're going to win these fights because you have more turn economy in the fight. You have more things that you can do. You have more knockups, and that damage can only pop up if you can use it.
Yeah, I'm just surprised in making that play at all by Conduit. I think for Arashi there, it's a dangerous position to be in the first place. Laning as you are into the Jax, I'm sure you have QSS, but it wasn't yet up. Sepsi just says, I'm going, you can't stop me. The fear runs out just as the QSS comes back off cooldown, and he had 0% chance of survival there. Xiaopi does turn up, turn things to 1-for-1. The fact that he does kill Septi means that Landslide don't instantly turn their attention to the Baron, but they have an 8,000 gold advantage, and they have 3 more minutes before the Drake spawns, where they can still consider that Purple Worm at their leisure.
And they can also we're going to go immediately onto a ward as Pantheon in a bit of trouble. I think at this point, just let him die. There's not a whole bunch you're going to be able to do to keep him alive. And that does set things up for Baron. That's the perfect pick for them to grab, and that puts them in an even more dominant position. At this point, I think Conduit needs to start learning to play from behind. They very much so are losing this, and so they need to play every single fight, every single engagement, every single step, every single positioning like they are losing, because that is exactly what's happening. If they can maintain that, the turn very much so can be in their favor, but they need to dial it back.
Yeah, I mean, the cross map is still pretty good here, but they're going to go for the fight.
Looks like we do manage to dodge the Call of the Forge God, but it did provide plenty of time for the rest to get here. This is still Lulu and Aphelios as well as Shin looking for an angle there. We do have at least some sort of a fight here, but it looks like TP coming in on the other side. Jax coming in looking for a stun on one. Unfortunately, catching the Aphelios now, hopping from there to the Lulu. Lulu gonna get taken down. That's a double kill. This is a 9-1. GitCat picking up his kill after one and other going forward. Demo even taking almost half their HP in one little bitty engagement. Conduit in trouble as everybody is knocking at their door.
And it's just an overstay. Unfortunately there for Conduit, they look for the cross map. We saw this in game 1. You go for something while the enemy team is taking Baron. If it's mid, then you die. If it's bot lane, then you probably are fine, right? You have just about enough space where you have plenty of time after they take the Baron to get that turret and then get out of there. But when it's mid, it's so incredibly dangerous. To even go for that play there, maybe it's desperation already striking for Conduit, but it's just way too much, unfortunately. And Landslide happy to take what was given over to them, and now they're up 9,000 gold, another 1,000 on top of what they already were, and that's despite the fact that was an objective bounty turret. An amazing team fight, and I mean, now they are in the position where this game is theirs to lose.
For sure. But, you know, I've got to remind the same thing I remind everybody is the fact that we're sitting at about the 29-minute mark, getting close to that 30-minute mark. So if Landslide makes 1 or 2 critical mistakes, this can turn in Conduit's favor. We still have plenty of damage. We still very much so have a meta build to go with. And there's a lot of different things that we can play with right now to make something happen. But the biggest thing is just this coordination. The coordination continues wow. over and over to be good on Landslide. And those, like, we did finally get stacks. I think that was 126 souls if you managed to catch that real quick. Yeah, 126 there for on the soul count for those of you who were asking. Drake is up, and at this point I think Conduit just needs to give it up. It is not soul point. It is going to be a devastating one to give because it's going to be a 3rd Ocean Drake to give over, but it's a lot better than losing the game right now.
Yeah, I'd much rather have a chance to win it in 5 minutes instead of losing it right now, right? That's what Conduit have to be thinking. When you give over a Drake like that, it's not worth the contest when you are at this phase of the game. Instead, see what happens, right? If the inhib down in mid, if they can't end off this push, which by the Baron is 40 in 15 seconds, then maybe Che gets enough gold to really bring yourselves back into this one. But he needs a lot more than he already has, just at 3 items right now.
Well, and right now, if for Conduit, we need to not get caught and we need to not force a fight. We need to let a fight happen natural. Try to get them under tower as far as we can. Try to wait for a bunch of abilities to blow out something. We just need to have a heavy advantage to get this. But we do have a nice 1-2 punch. Zhao Pipi still does an insane amount of damage with that execute. Can't actually help them. The fight does finally kick off because it looks like we do finally get one down. There's good spear coming in as Call of Fortune are able to get so much of the other side of the team. This is a great opportunity for Conduit. But can they stick the landing as we have so much money, so much gold on the other side? That tower is coming in clutch as Git is able to get kill after kill after kill, double kill, looking for his triple, looking for his quadra, going for the end. This has finally turned things around, and this ties up our score, baby. 1-1. Landslide sliding their way into a win, rolling into game number 3.
And the only downside you can say for the Landslide is the fact that GitCat was not allowed his quadra kill. Septi stealing that on their away right at the bitter end. It's just utter domination under the Nexus under the inhib turrets, as you'd expect from a team up 10,000 gold, able to just take the fight because they are so incredibly tanky, right? Your Ornn has just been building resists after resists, a couple of bit of extra HP, and he can tank that for 30 seconds probably, even with the damage coming through. It's just not enough from Conduit's side. I think they found an engage angle that looked quite nice. The Ari gets deleted instantly, but the rest of the team fight is so incredible in those long, drawn-out brawls that it just wasn't enough. And the crazy thing is, those are the fights that Ari likes to play as well. If she stayed alive, then it would have just been so much worse.
For sure. And I think this is one of those things that we can see here, right? Because, you know, we were both sort of talking about the roams for Senna and then how we didn't feel like Senna was super great in the lane phase and then how the ganks weren't super good. But, you know, in the team fight phase, which seemed to be what they have, we had the utility. We had a lot of deal. You know, the team was very, very bunched up. So Senna got a lot of really amazing heals, a lot of amazing shields off. I think she did find her purchase overall once we finally got to that point. And between that and coordination, it seems like the utility and the coordination really won this game for them. You know, while Conduit kind of ended up on their back foot and didn't know what to do. They floundered for a long time. And even when that really great fight happened underneath tower, that was a good opportunity to turn around. But we got to remember that started off with like an 8K gold lead in their favor. Either way, we won't know how the full series rolls up. Keep in mind, this is a best of 3, which means whoever wins the next one takes the whole thing in this first little bitty week. We're going to roll into a small little break. Give us about 5 minutes or so. Let's see if the camera proves him wrong, and we'll be right back.
Backstab me, deceive me, never shall I tolerate their crime.
and welcome back to game number 3, our final game for the evening. Our score tied up 1-1. Keep in mind this is Fearless, so if you look below our collective dumb heads, you'll see the previous picks as the bands roll through. Don't expect too much to change. We're really keen on keeping that brand out of the game, as well as Gwen. And last note of housekeeping, Landslide is sticking with the blue, while Conduit is sticking with the red.
Yeah, I guess they have something in their back pocket to come through potentially later on during the draft, but we'll have to see what Conduit want to do with that one. Landslide forced to stay around, but I don't think they're going to care about being on blue side. It's won both games so far this series. They're going to look to make it 3 out of 3 before they head off into the sunset with a win in week 1. From their perspective, find a couple bands going to come through right here. We've seen these first 4 already today, and it wouldn't be shocked if we just keep it the same 6 as we saw at least in game 2. I think there's a subtle change. Well, that's definitely a change. We saw a change from game 1 to game 2, but a lot of that can be attributed to the side selects. Landslide weren't happy to give over the Ornn to Conduit for them to pick first. Conduit were happy to let the Ornn through on the other side, and Landslide took that away. But beyond that, I mean, Emilio, a nice big change up, and Akali was a second rotation ban, I believe, last game.
I wonder if we're thinking of Mumu here, right? Because Emilio's a pretty decent counter to a Mumu. Of course, with that ultimate coming through. I think Amumu is much better in sort of the emerald range. I think we're sitting in the diamond area for this one, so not too unusual. But we did manage to pick up the Varus, so that could also make sense too. Popping your Chains of Corruption and having Melio kill that is really frustrating. And then I think Varus is such a powerful blind pick, and our answer to that is going to be another classic combo, the Ezreal Karma in the bot lane. I'm always a little bit cautious when I see Ezreals, at least on my team, because I think that good Ezreals don't exist below Diamond 2. There are a couple, but I think that it is a champion that has a deceptively high skill floor.
Yeah, but the mitigation with this one is that it's a Ezreal Karma, right? And Rhino's Diamond 1. So they got that going in their favor, I guess. Not much else to say on that topic. I think you are pretty accurate with that one, and it's just because we have the wrong OPGGN for we have a sub that I was not made aware of until I've just found it now, because I was not used to saying that name at all. Che is currently Diamond 2, so point remains, and he has a decent bit of Ezreal, though his win rate maybe requires a bit less talking about. Harry's been paired up with a Rel, though. I mean, there's accepting you're not going to have a fun time in the lane, and then there's just kind of letting it happen. Pairing alongside a Xin Zhao as well, I'm going to maybe even question if this Xin Zhao is not headed jungle. Just going to throw that out there.
I think that Landslide has been perfectly happy to play weird and perfectly happy with playing bot lane from a behind standpoint. And I don't think that's a bad strategy whatsoever. I think that ADC is oftentimes one of the weakest roles in the game, or at least the most impactful. Not that they can't have a large impact on the game, but I think that if you're going to play and sort of plan for a weak role, that's going to be a good one. Rel has a pretty powerful gank. If you can get in range, and depending on what's floating around, especially if you can get on like someone like Zaheem, Rel's going to like to fight that Zaheem. Plus, one of the primary reasons Rel is meta is because we are an enchanter meta, and she can destroy the shields, and Karma has powerful shields. There's a lot of champs with shields that do really, really well. Plus, Rel just has great CC, so she's good overall. This doesn't surprise me. I think it also pairs super nicely, because I think that you should be pairing your support with not only your bot lane and your team, but you should be looking at your ADC, and you should be looking at your jungle. And I think Rel does super well with Zen. But so far we've got our teams wrapping out. So far we've got Varus, we've got Rel, we've got Zen, we've got Zaheem, we've got Karma, and we've got Ezreal.
Yeah. I mean, looking towards the rest of this draft, if the Xin Zhao is headed where it normally would in the jungle, then we're just waiting on our solo lanes. I do believe the Zahen only played on Conduit by their jungler. Jampi has a couple of games on that, which is not matched by anyone else for his team, so could potentially be the jungle pick. Another flex that you can take into the R5 at least. If you just take mid on 4, which you'd want to do anyway. Obviously, the pool has been pinched by quite a bit, but you're still going to have something at this point. Otherwise, you're going to have a very tough time playing in any type of competition like this. I'm sure Demo has something up his sleeve still. For once, yeah, there it is, Syndra, which was not actually banned away the GP, but yeah, very solid. And now Zion can go either place. Landslide, you got to keep so many different things in mind that this draft gets very difficult.
I do like what Conduit's got here. With both the Ezreal and the Syndra and even Karma, we've got a team that can play over walls. We've got a team that can play around these objectives. But, it's not like we're slouching on the other side, too. Varus's poke is still very, very powerful. If Rel gets in range, things can get really spicy. Zen has great steals. Zen has a lot of great engage over walls. And then, of course, we've got Orianna, who I think Orianna, in my opinion, has just sort of one of the best trades kind of in general. And she specializes in these cramped spaces, so I think that we're going to see a lot of fighting inside the pits, inside the neutral objective, and especially over walls. And I think it's just going to entirely come down to a poke fest, in my opinion.
And we have a missed pick. Would it be the start of the season if we did not have a missed pick? I ask.
At least get one.
It's a Fizz.
Okay.
Now, of all the champions to mispick, that is one of them. And I hate to say this, but I think that's a top lane Fizz. I think GitCat got bored. Unless this is Zen top Fizz jungle?
All of this. I would rather see Zen top or Zen mid or Zen ADC than I would Fizz anywhere but jungle right now. I don't think Fizz is good particularly anywhere, but if you're going to pick him, I feel like jungle, maybe ADC wouldn't be the worst thing. I could see angles for that happening, but I'd rather see this Fizz jungle. I think that he can have a really solid game for that one, and I think that he can also act as a good facilitator for the ball delivery system for Orianna for that shockwave. Not that Zen can't do that. Zen can definitely do that, so there's a lot of tools to sort of play around that. If this is Fizz top, I don't even know what to expect. I feel like Urgot just destroys him if that's how that
If
goes
this is
down,
Fizz
but
top, the Urgot destroys him. I can agree.
You know what? I have had some very strange cast with Blue Water recently, and the one that broke my game was when we had, what was it? It was all in the same game. This team won, by the way. It was Mordekaiser, Warwick, Fiddlesticks, Nasus, and MF. Go ahead, guess where any of those went.
MF mid.
Nope.
MF support or something. They're gonna do some weird stuff,
MF
I reckon.
Support.
But
MF support.
I know that there's a team that plays like only top laners in bot. So I wouldn't be shocked if it's like the Mordekaiser down there, and then Warwick top lane, Fiddle jungle, and whatever else he said mid. It's a very similar thing to this.
Warwick jungle, Nasus ADC. So it's not quite as bad as that, but like I don't. And by the way, they won 50-30 when the game ended. But this could be Fizz mid or Fizz mid, but I don't like it. I feel like Syndra is a stronger choice. Either way, we won't know until that game ticks on. So we're going to go on a little bit of a break. I think I, at the very least, need some time to sort of catch up with things because I just this Fizz is kind of breaking my brain. Give us a few minutes, everyone. We'll be right back.
強く強く輝いて消えた流れ星ほら命が燃える何かに怯え走り続けたその虚しさのしじまに何を見て何を探してきた自分の声がただ響く幾千万の星の中で惹かれて出会った守り手たちよ回る回る時の輪の中で自分の弱さ強さの先に同じ空誰かが見上げてるそう信じて消されない虹の奇跡が届けと冷たい指で涙拭ったあの日にはもう帰れない水平線目指して飛び立つ自分の願いを抱いて幾千万の星に呼ばれ交わりすれ違う守り手たちよ回る回る時に抗って未来を願ってもいいですか儚さから目をそらしたぐり寄せる道の兆しの向こうかける希望あなたの光あなたの命いたずらに知らさないようにそっとくれた記憶胸に熱く灯し約束の地へもう
Alrighty, everybody, thank you for waiting as we roll into our final game for the evening between, of course, Landslide and Conduit. Landslide sitting on blue, Conduit in the red. Our score 1-1, and there's our first dramatic pause for the evening.
Yeah, I think that just means that there was a pause earlier on that we managed to avoid, which we are just grateful for. But I would like to point out once more, 3 out of 3 games now. Demo has chosen the new route. The Deathfire Torch, getting a lot of value from him, and I wouldn't be shocked if it does help him a lot in these trades, as it's going to be Crippy going with an Airy in the mid lane instead of trying to go that new movement speed type rune. The Phase Rush has been eliminated, but they replace it with something very similar. But instead, summon Airy, absolutely fine in these types of situations. Everything else, as we would expect, Maj going for a Comet means he's likely to be going towards a lethality version of Varus, but I can't say I'm all too surprised with the fact that he's playing up against Ezreal Carmel. That's the only way that he's going to have any semblance of wave clear.
And so far, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we've caught like 4 or 5 Qs like consecutively. So, you know, Ezreal seemed to be doing a pretty good job here in the trade. But the problem is that, you know, we still got pots. We still got plenty of sustain, at least for the moment. And when you think about the bot lanes, oftentimes you run into sort of like this rock, paper, scissors. And one of the primary things that beats all in, which Rel makes that lane, is poke, which we have. You know, we've got Karma and we've got the other end. Looks like Zahim, Zalpipi are providing a little bit of damage, trying to lock down the Orianna. Orianna holding on to the flash, so that's going to be super great later on. Great control there, because if that flash had been down, Zhao Pipi definitely would have been back.
Yeah, that was very, very close. But just able to walk that one there out was Grippy. Able to survive a lot better than this bot lane surviving right now. Phenomenal down, very low indeed. Suddenly running out of pot. Still has heal, so his health bar's not maybe as low as it seems. Also ticking up to level 3, surprisingly behind his Varus. Maybe missed a a minion or two of XP, but overall doing fine in the bot lane as Griffey's also struggling. Able to take a sneaky little base though. The cheesy base with TP gets him back with a reasonable bit of health, and should at least be able to hold on a little bit longer as Demo is going to take a base of his own.
At least a bit of CS difference. It's going to be 18 to 25 on each of their backs. Demo should be back into the mid lane sooner rather than later. And also, sort of speaking of that, it's going to be 20 to 27 on the back in the top lane. And most importantly is the fact that we also have, Urgot. Urgot can TP. Looks like he's not going to take the TP. That is an option, considering the fact that you have that. Fizz doing a bit better than I expected, but it's only the very early stages. Urgot needs to get more of that kit up and going, and a couple of items, which I think we do have now. And so far, it looks like we are maybe worried about the damage of that, because we did manage to grab a bit of MR starting off.
Yeah, I think Arashi really trying to use Urgot as much as he can for now, but it's not like the key timer for Urgot to be doing things, right? When you play Urgot, you are all on your level 9 spike. When you can start just pressing Q, and it doesn't have to go off cooldown, you can just keep it going. Similar to the ASOL type of idea, but in top lane and with a very different style of champion. But when you finally get that, that's also a thing. The crabbiness, I'm not there for. But he's just, he's doing his thing, right? The level 9 spike, as we say, is very important. When you finally get one thing maxed out, is where you can start to feel a lot more of your power in the rest of the game. So the fact that he's just down 5 CS right now and still has TP to go up against Git Count to Ignite means that even if he ends up taking a First Blood Death, it will not be the end of the world. Whereas back in mid, if Crippy ends up taking a First Blood Death and Demo has TP to get back, that might be the end of mid lane.
Yeah, and so far there is a bit of a lead. That doesn't surprise me, even though I think that the just purely from damage, Orianna's got the better trade. The biggest thing with Syndra is she can just sort of sit back and launch things over walls. She can get her balls sort of wherever she needs to and get that that critical damage. And I think that we're seeing just that. But it's not a massive difference. It's just a little bit here and there. And the trades so far have been favoring Syndra sort of for that reason. Fizz faring much better into the top lane than I expected. But you said that we are looking for that level 9 and looking to not let that level 9 happen. Ooh, Fizz missing a really painful ultimate right there as a flash comes through, and now
no,
going to get turned around completely as Karma goes for the rotation as well. First blood going to Zhao Pipi, looking for the second one, looking for another set of kills, as it looks like the Karma is here for a rotation as well. That tether coming in clutch as the double kill hits down on the jungler, giving Urgot some breathing room and a level.
What a roam by Grammar, turning that from what could have been a really difficult situation in the 2v2 into a 3v2, saving Arashi a whole lot of stress, a whole lot of potential panic. Amazing place now. Amazing place for him to have been. Does mean that Shay's going to suffer a little bit, but I'm sure with the results that roam to top got, he will be absolutely fine. And apparently he still has the push in the lane, which might not help in terms of CSing, but it's definitely going to be all right once the Karma gets back to things. And it's just an amazing play, right? To be there, to know your timers, to be able to spin the fight so aggressively in your top side's favor. It puts JPP in such an amazing position now, basing on Tiamat, looking to go potentially go invade as well, because Septi has such a tough time matching up to him now.
Well, looking for
this is dangerous though.
PP. This is absolutely very dangerous as one goes in. Unfortunately, we do miss the first stun, and it's not able to turn in what we need. There's going to be ultimate for Ezreal, as we do get a little bit of a 3v3. Nothing really going to happen from it, as we're able to buy some time. And something I wanted to double back to is the fact that we were talking about how we felt Lulu and Aphelios just didn't have a lot of synergy, and that's not the case here with this one. When you've got Ezreal, when you've got Karma, there's a lot of different things you can play. You can continue to harass the range, the lane. You can get a lot of poking off, but one of the big things too is that with Ezreal, if you have a good Ezreal, you can leave him. And Karma has such a great rotation. That tether is a very powerful ganking tool, much more powerful than I think people give it credit for. And you can get in range with an empowered Q. You can pop down the tether. You can keep yourself alive with a shield. There's so many different things that you can do. And a lot of these fights will be determined by this tether and how and when it is used. It is such a vital tool. And I think really the only one that can get out of it is Fizz.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, I think it's still, if you've already attached it, that unless she escapes the range with the dash range from being untargetable, it'll still root you while you're untargetable. Like, it will still apply that effect. It just might not matter as much, right? It's very difficult to escape in that way. This also looks pretty difficult to escape.
Brianna blowing a flash, going to blow the shockwave as well. There's a bit of reinforcements as Zen goes in, trying to find some sort of purchase. There's going to be the Crescent Guard hitting absolutely no one, unfortunately, as the tether comes in. I mentioned how important these are and how powerful that gank is. And now Zhao Pipi trying to capitalize on the double kill picked up by Syndra as Urgot comes in for the rotation. It looks like Conduit was taking some notes on synergy and cohesion and found a way, but this is only 8 minutes in. However, that is a nice 0-4 lead for Conduit.
Yeah, and Zhao just absolutely running over the map right now. This is what he has to do on the Zahen. With 2 kills to his name, you have to get someone else fed, right? The role of jungle is to not just get you strong, but to get everyone else strong. Does precisely that, and Maj is suffering in the bot side as well. Very close to falling down. If the turret didn't tank that W, then I honestly think he may have just fallen to the Q popping on his face. Jay looking to really press his own advantage. It's a great play by Zhao Pi, right? The whole point of that is to get your mid lane going. You're able to burn the flash of Crippy. You can turn up once more whenever you want. And you also got the ultimate out, just forward stepping it. Crippy had no response. A double kill goes Demo's way. And what more could you possibly ask for as a mid laner? Your jungler who is fed has come to help you out, and now you have a double kill in your lane. And suddenly, a lane that can be quite difficult, which you were somewhat winning, is so insanely winning instead.
I feel like we're making a bit of a mistake here. I mean, we can pick up kills, but fighting other Void Grubs isn't usually the best for, I think, for either side. I don't know why you would fight or die for it either way. Zen, a lot of back and forth. The flip comes in for Urgot as we're trying to find that damage. Fizz is able to go right on the other end as Demo's taking a whole bunch of shots on the other one. There's going to be the Crescent Guard separating the team. Urgot left here to pick up those pieces as we go in. Fizz grabbing 1 kill as PP tries to lock him down, does get him with a flash there. Now he just needs to stick the landing, and that's going to be a triple kill. This Zhao is now sitting at 5-0 at 10 minutes. We stopped the Grubbies. We picked up 3 kills, and if we want, we've got a Drake on our hands.
Yeah, of all the early game objectives to all in over, that was one of them. I refer to your previous comment that was made during the fight. I'm not sure why, but it was. Conduit with an amazing punish. I think demonstrably stronger at this phase of the game when you have 4 kills entering the fight and the enemy team has none. And they do precisely that. And it is all on the Xin Zhao. Amazing play once more from Zhao. He ends up getting himself a triple kill. The backline just did not exist. The bot lane has been completely ignored throughout the rest of it. But the 4v4 without them, so Conduit favored after those early kills. I think if it was a blank slate entering that fight, then maybe it's a very different tale. But the fact that Zhao was involved in all 4 of those first kills, had himself so much more just raw stats from his gold expenditure, and now is able to transfer that even more so onto the rest of his teammates. Arashi picking up 3 assists in the fight, was the one to fall down, but I don't think he cares all too much, as that is a shattered arm guard for GitCat. Like, the sheer gold value that now does not exist for this Fizz is monumental.
He's still doing a pretty good amount of damage here in against Urgot, but Urgot is getting really close to that level 9 that you mentioned is pretty important. And something I also want to go into is I think that these Karma's ganks have been, absolutely textbook Karma gank. We start off with the Q, we get in range with the tether, we've got the shield to provide at least a little bit of damage mitigation for it, and we've been able to do that consistently over and over. And now in the background, even though it's a really, really late Drake, we're sitting at almost a 12-minute Drake, so 7 minutes past when it actually spawns. But we do manage to pick it up. We got the Void Grubs. We got plenty of lead. And at this point, this is kind of just nitpicky.
Yeah, and that trade was anything but. Crippy just got destroyed. Rashi made full.
Level 9 here for this fight, unfortunately. I think there's not a whole bunch we can do. Fizz has got plenty of time to sort of play this out, as he actually does take the tower shot. That's not that bad of a trade for Urgot in the long run.
Yeah, Fizz used the E very early on. Instead of using it to drop aggro on the tower, he just used it to go as part of his trade and ends up coming back to bite him in the end. Arashi trying to use Fear Beyond Death, didn't even need it in the end. GitCat just getting pelted by turret shots instead, and while you make the play on top side, enemy team gets a chance to make something on bot, and while they don't give up a kill, Marge and Phenomenal respecting the potential, they end up giving over so much more in a different sense. But
coming down. Demo going to get taken down.
How was that happen?
And that's at least something. I think we just overstayed. We greeted for the plates. Very classic sort of mid mistake. I guess bot does the same thing, but we greeted for the plates and got taken down for it. I think that we didn't respect the fact that Orianna has that shockwave, because even if Orianna is behind and your team is losing, she's just basically always going to do damage, and that utility is going to come in clutch. So that is a sign that we can sort of transition this into something else, and that we can make things happen, and that Conduit can make mistakes. And we've got to remember last time too, in game number 2, we really had a significantly different atmosphere, a significantly different tempo once we hit that 15-16 minute mark. But you know, will it be enough at this point? Because this is a very fed jungler. Oh my!
Also a fed Syndra still. Yep, did have barrier, which is the counter outplay button. Filthy damage from Demo at any rate. That was very close to getting a solo in the side lane, and I think Maj just has to accept that bot lane is not something he can contest right now. The side lanes are not safe. Has to go mid, and in some ways it's maybe not safer in mid either, right? You still got even more eyes now focused on you before you're able to kind of mitigate the worst of things by taking that 1v1 with the Ezreal, but now, potential 3v3s, 4v4s, you're going to be involved in, and the fact that you just hit Youmu's when the Ezreal's hit Triforce means that you're not in the best position to be taking these fights, and if anything comes Conduit's way, I'm sure they'll take it once more.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing different from this fight and the other fight, other than just winning sort of some of the early stages, is, Avalanche, I keep wanting to call it Avalanche, Landslide did a pretty good job at just sort of coming together, grouping when something happened, and just sort of mashing everything together and having these number advantages. They're struggling much more to do that, and it does make sense because Conduit has a lot of champions that can play back and can escape. Urgot can be a hard one even to sort of 1v5, and if you don't kill him quick enough, we might have enough response for the other thing. Zahim also happy to do the exact same thing. We are doing a bit of a gank here on the other side, as finally Fizz is able to hit at least one ultimate. The Ignite coming down. This should be a dead Urgot, and now GitCat's got a little bit more gold on their board and looking to get this plate, but this could turn into a kill for Zahim. Zhao Pipi is here. Zhao Pipi looking for that angle, but Fizz can be hard to lock down. We should have at least 1 or 2 flips in the gas tank there for it. Go shot comes in. There's going to be the first flip, and it looks like it's just not going to be enough to get away, as we do pick up a kill almost for free.
Yeah, GitCat caught in about 3 different minds there. Do I want to stall for the longest time possible? Do I want to try and clear the way? Do I even think of taking the fight? Ends up choosing neither, which is probably the worst choice. And ends up just falling. Does have Zhonya's now at least, so is able to hang around in the Fizz versus Urgot matchup, which is a sentence that I clearly envisioned myself saying when I woke up today. Overall, though, it's okay, right? GitCat gets his kill. Fizz needs to be getting the snowball rolling, and that's going to help out things, if nothing else.
Yeah. For sure. And now we're sitting at 4-9, about 16 minutes, very clearly now in the mid phase. Urgot might get dove again, and this isn't the worst strategy.
They're coming.
Just continue to put pressure on it, but however, Zhao PP is here. We can turn this around. This is where most of the gold for the other team. He can
gets 2 items.
1v2 for sure, especially once he has a bunch of reinforcements, as the Zonias gets activated now. Ezreal coming into range.
Oh.
The kill coming on Urgot as he does get taken down, but that was the weakest member of Conduit. And are we just allowed to get out of this? Do we escape this? This will be really frustrating. GitCat taking some damage here. Gonna run into Karma on the other side. Zhao PP looking for the flash and the kill, but it looks like there is gonna be the Zonias for the Fizz. He immediately gets taken down as soon as he pops up. Syndra popping shots over the wall, looking for that damage, fighting over the wall like I expected, and now we've got a Drake out and ready to go.
Top lane is exchanged in favor of each other, but at the end of the day, Conduit end up feeling better about the team fight, even if it didn't go as strongly in their favor as some of the others have done so far. They pick up the neutral objective, they pick up that second Drake for their game. Now potentially 10 minutes away from a Cloud Soul, and Zhao PP is not done here. Looking to keep his advantage building by having a strike spike versus 1. He just wants to press his advantage.
Zen gonna get caught here by the tether. There's not an insane amount they can do. We
TP.
get the shield here from Oriana, but it looks like we're gonna get the exhaust instead. Gonna get taken down.
Oh, what a
Karma picking
flash.
up 1 kill. Not sure why Oriana is sticking around here on the other side of the wall. Another TP coming on the other side. Karma might get taken down. There is at least 1 kill as Ezreal in a little bit of danger. Gonna activate his barriers. Flash over the wall. Fizz on the hunt for 1 kill. Gonna grab the 1. Literally poke there now. Trying to chase down
was close.
Demo. Phenomenal. Gonna run into Urgot, having some troubles. Finally gonna get a kill on the board for Urgot, breaking him to 2.
Zhao.
On the other side, Zhao PP looking for a little more on the other end. Looking for the ultimate, looking for more. Syndra gets an assist here with the kill. And it was looking good for just a little bit, but now our score is gonna roll 7-13. 2 Drakes and 1 tower in the favor of Conduit.
Wow. Even the fights that look difficult, even the fights that look, dare I say, near impossible, Conduit still find a way to just pull things through, and it is still just courtesy of their jungler, who, to be fair, is 7-0-4 and should be carrying these fights. The fact that he is very good, clearly, but at this point, that is just his job, right? He is now officially the carry. Whatever else is happening, it can happen, but when your jungler is as fed as he is, he doesn't just have to impact the other lanes now. He has to do a lot more by himself, and Zhao is on an amazing champion to do precisely that, right? Zahen is one of those champs that can play front to back when it's required, can just dive the backline as well, as Demo is in a rough place.
I don't think we get out of this. This is a 1v3. We had caught the Fizz ult, and we've got Phenomenal over the wall. So yeah, take it down short and quick in a hurry. Not sure what the thought process is. It's not like we're playing the Vladimir anymore. Demo should know that that is extremely dangerous. Either way, that's going to get us taken down and get a little bit more gold in their point. And GitCat continues to get a little bit more in their gas tank, finding more and more of their purchase. And I am starting to see the angle in where Fizz can work. And he did significantly better into Urgot. I feel like he was going to get destroyed, but it just didn't really happen. Oh no, we're going to do it again. We're going to fight a 1v4. Shockwave going to activate as the fight comes in. Now, it looks like there's going to be a flash there from Zhao PP. I'm not sure Karma could get here in time. And 1 kill turns into 2. 8 turns into 9. Our score, 9-13 at 20 minutes. Conduit fondling the ball just a little bit.
I am lost on that one. I think that the first death is not great to begin with, right? Demo has very little vision in the bot side to walk up that far when the rest of your team is at closest, mid-tier 1, at furthest, pushing top or in their jungle, right? Standing at the enemy tier 2, it was definitely a choice. The choice to then go in from Zhao without having any idea who could potentially be there for Landslide was maybe even more consequential, because that gave over 1,000 gold to the Oriana, who has now picked up their own second item spike after being put so far down in the early lane phase. We kept pointing out how well Demo was playing the lane. Now the Oriana's basically ahead, right? 1,000 gold to the good from that shutdown. Creepy Penguin's in an amazing game state with 2 item spike. It feels like that was just unnecessary. They still have a gold lead to Conduit. This is not by any means the end of the game for them. Their team fight is still very good. But you just gave the enemy team a lot more than you ever needed to. And there was not much of a necessity to do what they did.
Well, this is kind of one of those things where I try to tell a lot of different teams when you're walking up or when you're going somewhere. Normally it's for support, but I think it can apply equally to everyone. When you go to a location, right?
Hold on.
I think you need to be constantly asking
Not
yourself,
again.
like this here example. Why are you there? Who is there to support you if you get caught? What benefit do you have for popping that ward down, right? Like, maybe we get a ward here for Drake just a little bit beforehand, but like if we get caught, it's way worse than not having vision, like significantly worse. And Karma does have 16 seconds, so we should be up in time and we should have TP for it, but we've missed a lot of sort of early setup, and a lot of times these Drake fights are controlled by not only Banana Bush. Ooh, looking for another fight here, but looks like Ezreal is going to be hard to pin down. We did waste a lot of resources as Zhao PP goes in, unfortunately not able to stick in the landing, but we did manage to give up that great position we had on both sides. I feel like if Karma was still there, we wouldn't have been able to pressure this whatsoever. But that is going to be some resources down on, Landslide side. And I think this fight is going to be very critical for determining how the rest of the game goes.
And this is a dangerous one for Conduit to take as well. Che is chunked out to half HP before this fight even begins, before we even think of starting. He's also tanking up the Drake as well. I'm surprised that Conduit are looking to take this fight straight up. The nice True Shot Barrage is going to maybe turn things back around. Is going to get in.
Phenomenal, going to about half HP as it looks like. We're going to take a bunch of damage to the barrier activated on the other side, and now Fizz going in on the back line, able to pull in one Urgot, able to pick up a kill there, taking down the Rel. GitCat in trouble, activated his Hourglass as the team starts to fall to pieces. Conduit having a much better cohesion this time around. There's going to be the Fizz ultimate, but it's going to kill absolutely no one. Zen chopping at the bits here in the background, trying his best to make things happen, but it might just be better to get out of there, and the third Drake is going to fall to Conduit. Conduit finds their footing. Conduit looking in a dominant spot, but can they maintain? Can they roll forward without making the mistakes they just made?
Well, one way to try and avoid the potential mistakes that they just made is to just go get another objective, right? It might exacerbate them if you're not careful, and looks like they will decide to not try the Baron on this timer, but I wouldn't have blamed them if they did. I think the macro becomes a lot easier once the Baron's in your favor, but not quite having the timers in their favor with GitCat being top lane. The potential for that TP was a little bit too scary, and as such, just going to back off things. Pleasantly surprised from Conduit's point of view that they were able to win that fight so dominantly. I think when you go into a fight and your ADC is already half HP, I'm personally quite scared for your ADC, and to be fair, Shaded fall using Barrier, but they still end up winning the fight, and it just proves that even in this phase of the game, the ADC is not the be-all and end-all. If the rest of your team is still strong enough, you can definitely make these ones work, and they do precisely that.
Yeah, for sure, and I think some of that has to do with the Drakes that we already had going. I know a lot of people like to not really consider them too heavily, but those small little bonuses do begin to add up. And we have, Infernal, we have, the Mountain, and we have the Cloud, which I think we're going to end up with Cloud Soul here, which would be absolutely phenomenal for Zaheem if they're able to pick it up. And I don't blame them for giving up that Baron. I don't think it's worth it. You can always take it later, and the big thing about Baron too is you not only have to take Baron, but you have to get out of it, and you have to survive taking Baron. Speaking of surviving, Zhao Pipi gonna run into at least a 1v4. The rest of the team is rotating, having a lot of time here. This could actually be a good opportunity for them to find something to happen, as Syndra, Demo, able to find at least some damage. Crescent Guard get activated. So many ultimates are gonna get used as we back our way off. Zhao Pipi somehow just barely able to survive that.
And I honestly think he could have survived more. The crazy thing with this champion is that if he just sends it a little bit more, the rest of his team is really starting to turn up for that team fight. He needed maybe, 2 more stacks of his passive to get the GA, at which point he goes vulnerable for a bit, and then when he comes back, he does disgusting damage. As long as he can keep the fight going, basically has double the normal amount of AD. I feel like if he wanted to, he could have continued that and maybe flip the game in kind of like a 60-40 type situation. Instead, Conduit going to back away, look for a better play in the future with GitCat. It's going to go ring around the rosy with Arashi in the meantime. Now becomes the Baron dance, right? Neither side really has enough of an advantage to just claim this objective outright. The Drake is still 2 minutes away. We can look to make a play on GitCat if he's caught out, but he's just going to throw an ultimate as a bit of a disengage. And yeah, now is the time where anxiety is tested as players in these games.
For sure, and this is definitely the kind of awkward lull where we're just not able to take Baron. We need some sort of advantage to happen, and this is the most critical stage, I feel like, when mistakes are going to happen, because you don't hit these lulls very often, so it's harder to practice for them, and the lulls don't always hit at the exact same time. So sometimes you end up in this awkward stage where you're just not sure what to happen, and when you are awkward like that is when you make awkward mistakes, is when you step a little bit too far forward. I do think Conduit has sort of tightened it up after those sort of cascading mistakes. I think it was like 3 right in a row that were starting to make things a little bit spicy for them. But now they're sitting in a much better position. They seem to be communicating. They seem to be coordinating. They're still in the lead. They got about a 4K goal difference, about 5K maybe to there with the 3 Drakes. So they can sort of just bide their time, because we got a minute on the clock there. And at this point, Landslide really needs to stop them from taking this Drake. And if Conduit sort of discovers that, hey, we can't get on this Drake, they can immediately pivot to the Baron instead. That's not a bad trade, considering the the other side will not get Soul. And I think that this fight's also going to be probably our second most important fight for determining tempo as we roll forward, and it's going to depend on who is in the Drake when the Drake spawns, like who is in that pit, and if we can give up our position beforehand, and most importantly, if someone gets picked.
Yeah, well, to try and work that out, it comes down to this kind of mid-pro that they're playing over right now. It also comes down to potential items, which can be so impactful in these fights. And I think the massive thing to point out right now, Crippy Penguin does not have his Rabadons. He's looking to try and get there, but he's not going to have it before this fight starts. On the other side of thing, 3-item spike starting to creep up, right? Xiao Pipi's had it for a little while. Che has just got his own 3-item spike. He's on Horizon focus. AP Ezreal taking a massive upswing with the change of this season. That mightn't be enough to change the fight in his favor.
Xiao Pipi finding a great angle over here on the background. Ultimate into the rest of his team. There's going to be an ultimate for Ezreal as the shockwave comes in, pulling in the rest of the other side. The damage for Urgot, able to do a lot for his team. GitCat going to get stuck inside this messy tangle. Ooh. That is Conduit as we pick up a second kill, giving up the soul to the other side. The jungle is down, the top is down. 2 more kills and a bit more gold in Conduit's favor.
No.
As it looks like Maj is going to get deleted like he was never there in the first place. TP down, Drake to our side, and now
that's not just the
marching
soul
on the base.
That's much more than the soul would have been, right? If it's just the 2 kills, then okay, the Drake goes over, and maybe Conduit don't have enough time to go for anything else. But now, you can see how confident they feel. They leave the Zarhen alone because they know the fight is already won. Septi is dead. We already have the Drake. We already have the soul. That's no longer an issue. Instead, we're going to send the rest mid. We're going to catch Maj completely isolated by himself, way too far forward, no flash, and the second kill, the second phase of the fight, that 3rd kill of the overall engagement, is what's going to give them the objective on top of everything else. The Baron, which was potentially a comeback feature for Landslide, now taken off the board. All 5 stay alive, and the push is now going to be so difficult because the wave clear just is not there.
Yeah, and it does mean that we've got Soul Point, and on top of that, we've got a nice little set of kills. We took out another tower. Ooh, nice shot, but it's just not going to be enough between that massive, massive shield from Karma. But now we're looking at about a 7K lead. We got that Soul that I mentioned, 11-19, almost 30 minutes on the clock. I don't think we can count Landslide out of this, but at this point, this is very much so Conduit's game to lose, and this might be the way to do it if Arashi gets caught here.
Why are we here?
Going on the other side. I don't think we have follow for this, so I think we just die here.
I'm very confused on both sides of this one. I will be honest. I'm not sure who has the advantage, but that will do it.
No way. Okay, so Urgot doing Urgot things, and he might actually pick up a second kill away. No, this will be extremely embarrassing. He picks up a double kill. He goes down for it, but we take those. Rel getting a shutdown. That's not going to do too much for her. That's really frustrating.
Oh, thank you, Arashi, for answering my question. That's why we're here. I was not convinced at all in the damage that Urgot had at this phase of the game, but clearly this 3-item spike of Knight's Vow is enough to just destroy in the 1 versus 2. He's picked up Knight's Vow, yes.
Okay. I'm not going to argue on that because I don't know. I haven't played top lane since like season 4, so I'm slightly out of the game.
I'm just saying that's what he's done.
No. It's definitely on there. Like it's in the game for sure, and it's on his bars.
It is inventory.
All of those things are true. We're able to take out a couple of T3s as the one in mid and in bot lane are there. This would be a great position to sort of look for a counter fight, but you got to remember there is a massive gold. It's, ooh, the root coming in as we try to lock down Zahim, but it's just not going to be enough. We've got to remember we still have that passive out and ready to go. Xiao Pipi finally going to get taken down, but it does not matter. GitCat for the hourglass, trying to go in with this Ezreal. These Qs left and right are coming through. Triple kill for the Syndra. Demo looking in great spot, and this might already be the end of game number 3, baby, because I don't think we're going to stop this push from the gray screen.
Varus against the world. Maj, what have you got in your back pocket? Using the flash for the engage for the previous fight, using the Chains of Corruption as well. It feels like this is just a formality. He's going to get scattered 2 of the 4 wins and fear from everything. Arashi, beautiful final kill of the game. Finishes up with a double kill score of the enemy team. Exactly what Conduit needed after a very nervy game 2 where they just kind of got overrun. This time around, able to pick things up in game 3, and they end up week 1 just about where they wanted to be, right? Not as clean as they would have wanted for sure, but they have the win. They get what they want from that point of view, and now they can look forward to the rest of the season And you take the little bit of confidence they got from this one on top of everything else.
Yeah, very dominant performance for game number 1. Game number 2, very much so switched to Landslide. They were looking super, super great, but just something didn't stick the landing. They didn't have the weird. They didn't have enough of the utility. Fizz had a lot more purchase than I expected them to, but I think that there is a reason why we don't see Fizz meta. It's not that he can't work. I think that it's that he usually does not work. But either way, that brings our score up to 2-1. Conduit having a great, great performance. Finally able to turn it around there right there at the end, showing they have what it takes, at least in week number 1. But that's all we got for y'all. This is the end of our best of 3. I've been your local casting cowboy, Korak. This has been Rue. We've had Sirius on production, but most importantly, this has been Blue Otter. Thank you.
世界に銀河に広がってくそれがいつか風となり消えて新たな日が始まる越えてゆく時の輪の 星に瞬きを伝えて守るものがあるからきっと強くなれる語るべき言葉なくした星の守りでは時の果て夢の果て闇に立ちすくんだ風を呼んでみたんだ空に向けて誰かを呼んでみたんだ光求めたソリチュードかすかなレゾナンス確かに届くロマンスそんな流れ星たちを抱き留めた明日が見えなくだって乗り越えなくちゃって奇跡の奇跡描き未来へつなぐ Growing High 心のフォトンが銀河にこぼれて道を強く照らす Burning Bright それぞれの思い秘めた星の守りでは空からの呼ぶ声に導かれた重ねる手と手には言葉なんかより伝わることがある熱い心通じ合った確かなレゾナンス見つけるのはエッセンス目指した意識の先がディスティネーション答えが見えなくてくじけそうになって支え合い誓い合う絆でつなぐシャイニースマイル心のフォトンが銀河に溢れて道を開く鍵は My Starlight Heart 明日が見えなくだって乗り越えなくちゃって